Okay, let's see if we're okay. Kayla. Good evening, or good afternoon, rather. But you see what's on the monitor behind me, folks. As you know, yesterday was a landmark decision by the Supreme Court, followed by a previous day Second Amendment landmark decision. So, in addition to strengthening Second Amendment rights, they rolled back Roe versus Wade. And grass fed, I saw the live too. Some Texas guy, for you guys who watched the debate with me and Snacks, listen, I just wanted to get in there and talk to the gentleman, and it is very, very difficult to debate with them. They run a totally different type of atmosphere. That's fine. They can run it the way they want to run it. And trying to get into an atmosphere like that, for those who see me debating live on AJ's page, it is difficult to go into that forum when you debate in the manner that I do. But that's fine. They run their page the way they want to, and insults flow rampant in the holster. It's what I would refer to as a clusterfuck. But that's my opinion. They have their own opinion. And yeah, JP said they hate you. So quite a few of you guys were in that forum there. So, but anyway, I was going to be talking about a follow-up to what took place yesterday. But yeah, I'm amazed at how many of you guys were in the live stream there and saw me debating what I brought up some clips from Madam Cleo because a woman gets on there and she insults me, and they let her talk for, I don't know, all of 3, 4, 5 minutes insulting the hell out of me. And the minute I decide to insult her back, well, you should show her some respect. So they do run an interesting forum. I mean, it's free speech, I suppose, barely, because I did get banned and I was invited to come back by the host, but the moderators, it's just a different type of show. And since they were stacking the boxes, says CJ Red. Yeah, because we were having a debate in regards to women's rights. We're talking about the abortion, and that's what we're about to talk about here as well. The whole Roe versus Wade, the Supreme Court ruling, and things like that. And they find a woman that essentially had beef with me and just really wanted to get on there and insult me. And that's fine. That's what she got to do. So, reading your comments here, after all this time, still hanging in there as a liberal. Good luck with that, Captain Robster. Man, it's challenging, but I will tell you this. Despite how Biden is running the country, I would tell you if I was advising the right, I would have told you guys to hesitate on rolling back Roe versus Wade. See if you can get someone in the Supreme Court, perhaps Clarence Thomas, call his wife, since she has, a direct contact with the upper members of the Republican administration. See if you can get them to hold back on rolling back Roe versus Wade until after the midterms. That's what I would have said if I was a Republican advisor. Just like on the liberal side of the aisle, I strongly believe liberals should do every single thing in their power to get Trump back on Twitter. They should call whoever the powers that be in regards to Twitter and unban him essentially immediately, because there's not a lot to rally around. I've made it clear I don't think Joe Biden's doing a good job. It's looking like a failed administration. I'm not here to back up Joe Biden at all. I'm here to point out where I think things are right and where I think things are wrong, and I don't think Biden is doing a good job. So the liberals, come election time, whether it's the midterms or 2024, are going to need issues and things to rally behind. And Joe Biden is not going to be one of those. So if you could get Trump back on Twitter saying some crazy stuff, or Roe versus Wade being rolled back, or Second Amendment rights being strengthened, the Supreme Court is actually probably helping liberals right now more than they're helping Republicans. They're doing what the Republicans want, what they were put in for. And that's a kudos to President Trump, because without Trump, you wouldn't have that Supreme Court majority. That's fine. But right now, what the Supreme Court is doing right before the midterms is probably galvanizing more liberals than Republicans. Okay, the box is open. You guys want right off as faction. And what I want to find out is if any of you guys had any type of unrest in your area, which is why behind me on the monitor you see Jane's Revenge. We'll talk about Jane's Revenge in a minute. But Mass Faction, good evening to you.
Hey, how's it going?
I'm doing good. Hey, did you hear anything in regards to protests or uprisings in your area in regards to the Roe versus Wade?
I'm a Canadian, so we
Oh,
have protests sometimes when Americans do. So pretty sure there will be protests even in Canada because the people here like to when there's something going on there, they still like to protest here regardless.
what is
Uh,
what are your abortion laws up there?
um, well, I don't really people don't really talk about abortion that much, but yeah, they have abortion and it'd be part of the public healthcare system, so people can get abortions. I'm not sure on the rules exactly because it's not really something that's discussed that often or in any detail
Okay,
here, right?
but it
Like
is
my
legal. It's legal to have an abortion in
yeah,
Canada.
like my
Okay.
personal opinion for the United States, like I personal opinion, I think abortion should there should be some reasonable rules around it, and it should be legal, but there should be some reasonable rules around it and some common sense around it, and
Give
then
me
leave it at that,
that's
right?
fine. That's fine.
Yeah.
I want you to elaborate on that. Give me your spiel. Give me what rules that you believe should be. Because
Okay.
that's what you're here for. Speculate.
Well,
Let me
I
get
can do
your.
that, but I just want to say one other thing. So on the Roe versus Wade thing, I think one thing that's good about the United States is you have 50 states, and each of those states can have their own laws and their own rules, and that gives a diversity of different type of environments, right? And then people
Right.
can move to those environments. You can lobby your representative in the state to have laws what you want in that environment. And the Roe versus Wade is all doesn't move it back to states. Maybe yeah, maybe you will. Maybe in this case that they'll have some bans in certain states, but then if the majority of people within those states disagree with that, that gives you opportunity to point that out, an opportunity to lobby that state representative, and it gives you to move to say if you live in Mississippi, you don't like Mississippi, you can move to California. I know it's
Well,
expensive, but
it's
maybe
not
that
always
is a
that easy.
negative thing. Yeah, I understand
No,
it's not that easy.
yeah, it's not always that easy. I mean, you don't know what type of routine a person has in an area where you just being up and moving. For instance, most women that are making pro-choice decisions, having abortions, moving and having the finances available to move is a lot of them can barely afford the procedure itself. So telling them to
Yeah.
move, particularly, let's say you live in Louisiana. The nearest state to Louisiana that you're going to be able to have an abortion in is damn near going to be Illinois. I mean, that's literally hundreds of miles away. It's not that easy to just up and move. But I'll let you continue.
I understand. It's not a perfect scenario, but the advantage of this is because when you have the federal government takes too much control, like for example, maybe in this case, maybe the abortion thing is an example of something that it does make sense to for be legal and it's a good thing. But I think having the system where you have states and it gives you the individual states going to have their individual rules is an advantage because then if you have just a federal government just has full control over everything, they kind of lock in things for everybody, and then there's no choice. Maybe this
Right.
is something that people can agree if at some point it should be legal. I don't know.
Well,
It's pretty hard, but I don't know.
I will
Right?
say in regards to what you're talking about, you're right. America is essentially 50 countries, and you're making a good point about in every state they have their own mindset and they can do kind of what they want. The reason why we've started going by way of big government as opposed to states' rights, how we were founded, is because a lot of the states, their mindset was to oppress people, whether it's folks who look like me or women with
Mm.
the right to vote and things like that. But if you hadn't left America as a states' rights nation from day one, there would be some pretty oppressive states in this country. That's why the federal government has essentially gotten bigger and bigger, is because a lot of states have been abusing their power on their own citizens.
Yeah. Yeah, that's yeah, it's true. Like I guess you can have some things that maybe should be universal rights for everybody, but it's another thing that's kind of the big problem with you guys with the two party system you have, like the Republicans and Democrats. You have when you have these very polarizing issues, and when you have, say, for example, the Democrats get in power, and then they're very one sided on some things, so then it switches over to that way of doing things. And then you have the Republicans, they get
Right.
in power, then it switches back the other way, and it's like this big giant swing because there's no middle ground in a lot of these issues in these parties, right? So
Right.
I think that's the biggest issue. So I guess like in Canada, we have more diversity. Like Canada's more, I guess, left leaning, but we have more
Yeah.
diversity within parties. We don't have a two party system. I think
Right.
that's the biggest thing that you guys need to try to get rid of is the two party system some way because you need to have some more diversity within your politics. That's the biggest problem. And I think the other biggest problem we have is probably even a bigger problem is I think it was back in the 90s they opened it up so that corporations were basically treated like people almost, and they could give money to political parties very
Yeah,
easily,
I
and that
agree
is
with
the
that.
biggest problem in my mind. Yeah.
Well, and that's the problem with that's probably the biggest issue with our political system is there's too much money, and you're talking about corporations and things like that. There is too much of that
Mhm.
in our political system. I don't know what the solution to that is going to be because anybody
Mhm.
who becomes a member of our political system is going to see the access they have to that money, and any thought of changing that is going to go away. I mean, even if you really wanted to do what was right, the minute
Mhm.
you won and became president or senator or congressperson, when you see the amount of money thrown at you, it tends to change your mind. So I don't know how we're going to end that.
Yeah, it's difficult. It's like once you get so far in one direction, it's hard to move things in the other direction, right? And it's kind of
Yeah.
they've got a lot of power and control nowadays. So yeah, to rein some of that in is going to be difficult for sure, 100%.
So
But
back to the
oh,
original
go ahead.
question. What limitations you believe should be placed on abortion?
Well, I think there should be some reasonable time frame where a person can know they're pregnant and they have a reasonable time frame to make a decision, and they can make that decision. And then once it's past that reasonable time frame, then they can't. And I think there, and also I think there should be one thing in society with all the progressiveness and stuff like this, which is fine. Like people want to be able to move freer and things like that. But it seems like it's almost going so far in one direction. Like there should be, like when it comes around abortion and sex, there should be some port of individual responsibility brought into it, so that people often responsible manner, and then this is often. And but it seems the left wants to be everything's about free and gender fluidity and all this stuff. But I don't think that's really a positive thing, because I think it just makes things too free. Like there is a point where you have to have some responsibility, where people take responsibility for their actions, and that makes it a stronger society. And then where things is so open and so free and you can do whatever you want, I think that is problematic. So I think reasonable rules that are reasonable, and maybe some education around this, and you should try to limit this what you're doing. Like it's still the attitude that it's not a human being. Well, it is a human being. It's just not a fully developed human being yet. And I think there should be some respect around that. And that's something should be taken very seriously. Like I don't think the level of abortions that's taking place in the United States should be happening. Like there's a large number, like I think it's like hundreds of 400,000 or something like that. It's like a very large. I can't remember exactly how many, but it's a large number of abortions per year, and it's a large percent. I think it's like
Five
almost
hundred to
15 to
700
20% of
is
pregnancies end up
yes,
in
five
abortion, which
hundred
is insane.
thousand. Yeah, we have 500,000 to 750,000 abortions in this country every year. That was what the numbers were. Obviously, that's going to change, but that is what the numbers were. But I gotta move on. I'll let you wrap it up. Give you the
Yeah, no,
last
no
word.
problem. Okay, I'll just I'll move on. I have nothing else to say, but I enjoy your
All right.
channel. You have a good discussions in here,
All
so
right. Thank
take
you.
care.
Appreciate you coming through. Okay. And let me just say, I want to read a quote since we got a few hundred of you in here. And by the way, folks, tap the screen, get your boy likes up as I always ask you to do. I want to read a quote because you hear a lot of folks on the right, this is giving the power back to the states. That's where it belongs. That's a common phrase you're hearing from the right now. Rolling back Roe versus Wade gives the power of choice back to the states, which is where it belongs. The left, including folks like myself, your humble correspondent, is stating that it is a pathway towards a complete abortion ban. And I know a lot of folks on the right, my favorite audience, tend to disagree with that. I want to read a quote to you. This was said by former Vice President Mike Pence, I believe just yesterday. He said, having been given this second chance for life in regards to rolling back Roe versus Wade, we must not rest and not relent until the state is restored to the center of American law in every state in the land. Now, that came from the former Vice President of the United States. We must not rest until the sanctity of life is restored to the center of American law in every state in the land. So, anytime someone tells you that this is just states' rights and there is no goal of a national abortion ban, I'm going to quote Mike Pence. I mean, he rose to the second highest job in the land. You're going to tell me nobody else on the right side of the aisle want what Mike Pence want? So he himself has made it clear that he is looking towards a national abortion ban, not states' rights, which is what everybody is trying to say. That is a quote from him just yesterday. So yeah, anybody who tries to say it's not a ploy towards a national abortion ban, they're being disingenuous with you. It's a states' rights issue for now. Going back to the box, Baby G, I believe. So once they're done with that, what rights are they coming for next? And that's another good question, Charles. I strongly believe LGBT rights will probably be next. Baby G, good afternoon.
Hello, King. First I want to
Hey,
say I don't know that last live you was just in. Was that a for real live, or were y'all just like, was that just like a comedy show? I really need to know.
that was for folks who were there. That was AJ, and for you guys who listen to me often, you know about snacks and you know about the whole event of him cursing me out. He was in that live. That was AJ's
Yeah,
live with snacks in there, so you already know how it went.
I
I
felt,
was trying to have a regular
I know,
traditional. You got
and
a real loud background, baby G. You got a real loud background. I don't know if you can hear me.
no, I don't have anything in my background. I'm in a quiet room
Okay.
right now.
Okay. All right.
I don't know.
Well,
I felt some kind of way the way you were being. I don't know. That's why I needed to ask you that before we start this conversation, because you're a really nice person. And I don't know, I felt some kind of way the way that you were being disrespected. So,
yeah.
I
I
apologize as
you
a
know
human being.
Yeah, they run their debate form totally different from mine. Where I'm a fan of free speech, but they take it to the point of insults and all kinds of
Right.
other stuff. That's fine if they want to run it that way. In fact, I even partook in some of it myself. So, but yeah, it's talking all over each other, and that's kind of the reason why I do not have more than one person on live at the same time. Is because I try my best to let the folks speak, get their point across without everybody talking all over each other. But yeah, they do things a little bit different over there. So
Well, I commend you because you were really respectful, even though, you were being extremely disrespected, and you were extremely respectful. And I want to give you much respect and, love for that, because I was like, okay, I can't say that I would have been able to stay as calm and chillax like you were doing. It was just like you got much respect for me for that. So, with that being said,
thank you,
I
thank
agree
you.
with you on the whole, they're coming for LGBTQ people's, rights next. Gun rights. I mean, if people think this is just about abortion, then they are really fooling themselves, because it's not. And you asked that
Yeah.
one guy that was just on here, what, like, does he think, what laws should be put in place? Well, I'll tell you, I believe that abortion should not be used as a method of birth control. I believe that a woman should have the right over her own body, though. However, I do believe that if she's wanting to have an abortion, she should not be able to wait till that second and third trimester to, go and get that abortion. If she knows she does not want to carry that pregnancy, she should go and do that in the beginning of that pregnancy, unless it's a medical reason. And then that's up
Let
to
me
her and
ask you
her doctor.
this.
Hmm.
Okay, let me ask you this because this is based on a real life scenario. I have an ex. It wasn't my child, but I have an ex. I went and saw her. I hadn't seen her in a while, and she had a child. And I'm like, when did you get pregnant? And she told me she did not know she was pregnant. And this girl's an RN, so she's not like just some person laying around. She's an RN. She did not know she was pregnant until the fifth month. So the reason I'm bringing it, and I know this isn't common, this might seem like something on the extreme or the fringes, and that's fine. But I'm just saying, in some cases where some folks are saying, up to 6 weeks or whatever, what happens if a person doesn't know for a while?
Well, I guess that could happen, and then I guess it should be, each situation should be different. But a person who's, I've been pregnant 5 times, and I have 4 living kids. One of my son passed away, so I knew every time that I was pregnant. But I guess it can be that someone, may not know. It depends on, the body autonomy and stuff of a person. So I guess it should just be took into a consideration with that. at the time, if that is the case, and a person has to live with that. If they knew and they're just using that as an excuse, then, they got to live
Right.
with it. It's not for me to judge them, um, to say they shouldn't or should or shouldn't do, that with their own body. However, morally, it would be wrong, just morally. So,
Right. Well,
um,
it's interesting you said it because I'm getting alternating feedback in the comments. Some folks are saying that not realizing you're pregnant to that far along is actually fairly common, and then other folks are like, "That's BS. This person had to have symptoms." So I don't know. I'm not a woman, and
well,
this is
no,
one of the things I try to.
not everybody has symptoms. Like with my 16-year-old, like, I mean, I started like missing my menstrual cycle. However, like that's the only symptom majority of the pregnancy. So a person for the pregnancy, a person may not know, and sometimes stress can make you, miss that cycle as well. So a person may not just run out and go get a pregnancy test. So I'm not going to say she's, not telling the truth, because she may very well be. It's, I don't know her. So, I mean, we can't say she was or she wasn't telling the truth on it. However, I just wish some people would take into account that being pro-choice does not mean we're against life. That's not, what we're saying. We're just simply saying that it's about having the right to, choice over our own body. We're not saying, that we're wanting to, get rid of life and life does not matter. We're just simply saying that, for decades, women have had to fight for the right to make choices. We didn't even have the right to vote. you
Yeah.
know,
So that, and that's one of the things I was saying even in the previous debate that I was in, is that I hate to even be a part of a debate where it's 100% men deciding what happens to women.
right.
Regardless of what side of the aisle you're on, a woman should have some say so in this, because they're the ones that are going to be primarily affected by this. And I just don't like that. But that's just me. I seen those folks over there totally disagree with that.
You
What
know,
about a man that's his baby? Yeah, go ahead.
I want people to understand that there are situations that some people are put in, such as like domestic violence situations. And I was in one of those situations. And, sometimes we're put in situations that, you know, we don't want to have to carry that. But I did have my kids. But it is a constant reminder of, my past. But not all women can handle that. And people need to understand, taking that right away from a female, you're going to increase suicide rates. You're going to increase, mortality rates. I mean, it's just going to happen. I mean, and
Yeah.
I wish people would leave, God and religion out of this, because I am a Christian. I'm a Christian and I love God. But at the same time, this is why you should or should nothing, because that's just not cool. So, just people need to understand this is gonna have a domino effect. It's
Yeah.
not gonna be
Oh,
as simple
yeah,
as,
yeah. If you think
yeah,
you can, it's. I always compare it to the gun debate, and some folks don't like for me to do that, but they have a lot of parallels. If you think you're going to just ban guns and there's not going to be any type of residual effects, it's the same thing with abortion. You're not going to just ban abortion and abortions are just going to drop. There's going to be all sorts of residual effects. You ever heard of the phrase "from my cold dead hands"? Well, from my cold dead
yeah,
uterus. I mean, there's going to be residual effects, and I don't think that
right.
folks have thought that out.
No, they haven't. And a lot of
Yeah.
women will not report pregnancies. It's just like a lot of SAs and Rs are not reported. And people want to throw that in every live you go in, just about the percentage of SAs and Rs. A lot of people do not report that stuff.
Yeah, that's
And
true too. That
I
is true.
mean, so you can't go by the numbers and statistics of what's in a book, because those books are man-made books. Someone, but how do we know those are actually legit percentages? I
Good
mean, we
point.
could debate
Good
that
point.
all day. But I do see you got another guest in I love your lives. I love what you stand for.
Thank
You're a
you.
very kind
Thank you.
and, kind-hearted person. And like that one lady tried to say in that last live, and I'm glad you called them out on that because nobody was hearing me. She tried to say that if a woman goes out here and has a one night stand, that one night stand stuff, the man should not be held responsible. Like that is just
Yeah.
ludicrous. That is just ludicrous. Like I
Yeah,
could
she
not stop
definitely,
laughing.
yeah. Yeah, and they tried to, yeah. That whole live was interesting. I'll just say I won't even go into that whole live, but it was interesting. I appreciate you
Yeah.
coming through
You
though.
have a blessed day, King.
All right. Absolutely, you too, ma'am. And the point I'm trying to make though, in regards to what's going on, is that this stuff will have residual effects. And I think right now the primary focus for those on the right is saving the life of the unborn, not focusing on the residual effects. And we're at a point now where saving the life of the unborn, that victory has been won. Now it's going to come time to addressing the residual effects. And I think this is where you're going to start seeing other problems, like what to do with women that actually terminated a pregnancy anyway. And I'll go to the box, but I'll ask you guys in the comments, yes or no. Similar to the gun debate, if you ban guns, a criminal will always find another way. Now that abortion is on the steps of being banned virtually everywhere, at least in half of the states in the country, if a woman wants to have an abortion and she cannot afford to leave the state she is in, do you believe she will find another way? Yes or no? I am going on to the box. Fred Frost, and I'm looking for those who cannot afford to leave the state and she wants to terminate her pregnancy. Do you believe she will do it? Yes or no? Fred Frost, good afternoon.
Hey, bud, I'm not here to debate or nothing like that. I'm here to tell you I apologize for how them idiots treated you a little while ago. That was
Oh,
very disrespectful, very unprofessional,
yeah.
and people like that make me fucking sick. You know,
Well, I
we,
appreciate
we
the
you
sentiment,
and
man.
I have had debates back and forth because I do see things different than you do on some pages, and what them guys did in that one, whatever, the fortune teller lady up there in the top, the way she just made me sick.
Yeah, I appreciate the sentiment, man. I only go in there. I think that was only my second or third time going in there to debate with those guys, and every time I go in there, it is exactly like that. In fact, I was listening before I went in there, and they were doing that to previous guests. They usually operate fairly smoothly when it's an echo chamber, when everyone is on the same page. But if you put someone in there with an opposing opinion, yeah, it goes off the rails.
Yeah. Well, that's all I was doing. I was calling to apologize because that was very disrespectful and very unprofessional of them. And you
Yeah.
know, that's just the way I see it, man. And I appreciate everything you're doing. You know, we don't see eye to eye on everything, but I tell you what, you are respectful. You are legit. You do talk like you got some sense, and you don't belittle or downplay nobody on their opinions.
Yeah. Well, I definitely, man, nothing but love. I appreciate the sentiment, man. No apologies needed, though. I knew what I was getting into going in that room. I know that there are folks in that room that just do not really practice the art of debate very well. But I just wanted to dip in because they were having an interesting conversation and see, was the water different. But no, the water was cold as hell. So I
Yeah.
just figured I'd go in there. Blame it on your host. I don't know what else to say. I guess I'm what do they call it? A stickler for punishment.
Yeah. Well, you have a good day, man. And I appreciate everything you're going on.
Hey, appreciate it. Anytime you're welcome back. You know how it works. Much love. All right. Folks who are asking what happened, I went into a debate. If you guys are familiar with AJ, he has his own room similar to yours truly right here, but he has a bigger audience than I do. There's no denying that. Stacks or Snacks, that guy. If you want to hear Snacks or Stacks, if you want to hear him speaking, look on my page. Among my videos, the very top left-handed corner video I have, the very first video, is him tearing me a new one. And I'll let you guys hear it. Like I said, free speech. He's doing exactly what he did today, cussing you out, saying all kinds of horrible things. And yeah. Listen, when you're debating, folks, we're talking about Roe versus Wade today. I believe the other day was when they relaxed the laws on the Second Amendment. These are very passionate topics. And it's not uncommon for folks to be very passionate in the way they feel about these topics, particularly with Roe versus Wade, because you're literally criminalizing a woman for decisions she may make regarding her body. So there's going to be very passionate people. Stacks happens to be somebody who's passionate all the time, and he does not really entertain a counter viewpoint. He doesn't. In fact, he doesn't even want to hear you talk. So he will ask you a question, and the minute you start responding, he'll just talk all over you. So that's what happened for folks who are wondering. Anyway, I will look in the comments here. I was hoping to vote on who was more. Samantha, I saw that. Listen, they were criticizing me for everything. How I looked, what I was wearing. It's a different type of debating room. That woman's mouth make me sick. I'm sorry. I'm amazed at how many of you guys were in there. Wow. My duty, Tommy, is the man. He destroys snacks. Yeah. I'm really amazed at how many of you folks were in there. And it looks like Lobo said it's not a passionate thing. It's ignorant of them. Well, yours truly. I try to be kind if I can in all instances. They were so bad that I even partook in a few of the insults myself. It was just like, I guess if this is the order of the day, it fell under the category of if you can't beat them, join them. And so I apologize to anybody who may have seen me acting a little bit less than what you might normally expect, but it was pretty chaotic in there. Wake up, Herman Cain. Shout out to the late Herman Cain. Isn't he the 999 guy? He was talking about running the country with some type of 999 plan. But yeah, shout out to the late Herman Cain. Watch because you were there and I was curious to hear the debate. Okay, fair enough. Well, if I brought you to that debate, brought you to that live, then I'm happy to have had you come over there. Appreciate you joining. Okay, let me go to the box. I think I just lost the person that was in there. You did good, big man. Holy, I just saw that talk about disrespect. Wow, you guys were really in it. Are you pro-choice? In regards to that comment, VDVS, yes, I am pro-choice. I'm not pro-choice without any sort of restrictions at all. I mean, I'm not a fan of some of the right-wing stuff you hear is outrageous. I mean, I've heard people go as far as saying that liberals are in favor of aborting a child that is 28 days out of the womb. Now that's just insane. That is just asinine. But even when you start getting into the second trimester, things start to get, as far as support for pro-choice decisions, second trimester, the support falls completely off. And I'm not a big fan of it going into the second trimester either. But then when you start going into the third trimester, even liberals and a lot of strong pro-choice advocates are not fans of allowing third trimester abortions. Because now you're talking about a viable child, a child where you can take out of the womb, potentially incubate or something of that nature, and that child can turn into a healthy, functioning human being. I mean, you're talking 6 months. So very few people are in favor of that. But to make a point, in regards to its murder or in regards to how crazy liberals are, most of the right-wing counterpoints are going to feature those late-term abortions as their ammunition to attack the whole process on. But most abortions are not performed in that range. Mainly for health reasons. 95% of abortions are in the first trimester, says Batty Slots. Now, I don't know the actual numbers, so I will admit ignorance, but according to Batty, 95% of abortions are performed in the first trimester. And keep in mind, I think one number I do know is that 70% of Americans do support abortion up to a early level. So if what Batty is saying is 95% of abortions are in that level, it does seem that the extremes, liberals wanting to abort a baby at 28 days out of the womb, that type of mindset was probably what helped get the Supreme Court to roll back Roe versus Wade. Is that they thought women and liberals were really just taking the lives of live, viable children. And I don't believe that's the case. Defend 3747 says my stance is the same as yours. Yeah, I don't, but I guess one of the things I was on here to ask you guys, because you see in the back, Jane's Revenge, that is apparently a fringe women's group that is really pro-choice and they're pissed off about what happened, and you're starting to see Jane's Revenge spray painted on public places, buildings, street signs, and things like that. So one of the things I wanted to ask you folks, in your particular areas, have you heard of any protests getting out of hand? Whether it's women walking down the street naked or any crazy thing. Have you heard of anything in your neck of the woods, as they say, happening in regards to this? Now there were protests all over the country. And I see my damn body. Now, I always point out very unique and interesting names. I love it. The name is My Damn Body. And she said in her comment, "We are coming." So I seen a spray painted sign that said, if abortions are not safe, no one is. And the point they're making is that abortion is going to continue anyway. It's just going to be performed in a manner that's not necessarily safe. But the comment is being spray painted on places is that if abortion is not safe, no one is. I don't know what kind of threat that is, but that has been spray painted on a number of places. In fact, if you go on Google and type it, you can see video evidence of where it's been spray painted places. I see Terrence is saying, "Go Jane." There was an insurrection in Arizona, modern colonizer. What kind of an insurrection in regards to the definition of insurrection took place in Arizona? Just in Washington, D.C., not where I'm from. Okay, you're from Nova Scotia. If you're up in Canada, then that's something different. I appreciate the follow, Ebony and Alexis. If these people actually cared about kids, they support social programs to support impoverished kids. Excellent point. That is certainly something that you're going to hear from the liberal side of me. And I see the box. I will go to the box in a minute. But in regards to protecting the sanctity of life, why does that sentiment end once life is evident? Once the child is outside of the womb, you got these programs where a mom can only receive welfare for 2 or 3 years for her entire life. There's several states that have enacted laws that says once a woman or a man, anyone, once you're getting welfare benefits, the primary recipients of welfare are women. That's why I'm saying women. Not trying to sound sexist, but the primary recipients of TANF and food stamps and things like that tend to be women. They have laws in place that place a lifetime limit on how long you can receive assistance from the government. So the question is, if you truly are for protecting the sanctity of life and helping children, why does that end once the child is outside of the womb? What if a mom has a child and she needs help for more than 5 years in her lifetime? Let's say she's on welfare for a year or two. She get a job, one of these bullshit jobs or something like that, and she's off and she's back on. Anyway, she has a total of 5 years. Some states have it down to 3. If you really care about children, why do these laws exist? And this is primarily a Republican legislation that does that. Okay, let me go to modern colonizer. Stop having all babies they can't. But hang on a second, modern colonizer. I want to respond to a comment. This is from Nee Marie. They really need to stop having all these babies they can't take care of. That is true. That's why they were exercising abortion. Now you're making it so that these irresponsible women are now becoming mothers. So I just want to let you understand that it's one thing to do something stupid and, exercise your pro-choice rights. It's another thing to do something stupid, and now you want that person on a hook for 18 years. Okay, modern colonizer, good afternoon or good evening.
Hey, afternoon for me. I'm installing some shelves in my new work van. It's hot as shit in Arizona, so.
Oh, no. Tell me about this insurrection.
Yeah. There was an insurrection in Arizona, man. There was people who were upset with their government and wanted to go and voice their opinion at the state capitol.
That's not an insurrection. That's a protest.
Oh, okay. Now, I love you.
Did they break into the Capitol? Did they take any podiums? Did they take any letters off anybody's desks?
I think security was tight enough that they kept it from happening, but would they have? Do you think they would have?
Well, you can't charge somebody for something they would have done. I'm asking,
Correct.
did that happen? You said it. You didn't say a would-be insurrection. You said there was an insurrection.
Well, I mean, if they had shot Thomas Jefferson in like 1776, would they have called him an insurrectionist or just a dead guy? So,
And
you
I was only 3/5 of a human being, so my opinion don't matter. But but in
know,
regards to, have you seen anything crazy outside of that in
I,
your
I,
area?
I don't have regular mainstream TV, so that's why I stay somewhat sane. Is I don't follow it to a T. I depend on folks like you guys to bring
Okay.
that to me, and I appreciate you for it. Um,
Okay.
I'm pro-choice, right? You know that, right?
No, I did not know that.
Yeah, I'm a weird guy. I believe in people having individual freedoms, and that's
I've
a weird.
said that before myself. I'm a weird guy. There's nothing wrong with being a weird guy. Shout out to all the weird guys.
Yeah, I'm not pro-abortion by any means, but I'm really tired of people and other people's business, So that's where
You're the libertarian.
yeah, exactly.
Okay. All
And
right. Okay.
so that all being said, the one disagreement I have with you on is that um, and totally off topic, but it's just the exact same as when liberals called it the "Don't Say Gay" bill, and it didn't say those three words in that bill anywhere. The idea that the striking down Roe v. Wade has banned abortion, I know what it will eventually lead to. I'm not one of those. Oh, well, you never know, guys. No, there's going to be a lot of states where there's going to be zero exception abortion banned. Boom. I get it. I'm not disagreeing with that. But the Supreme Court striking down Roe v. Wade does not instantly ban abortion. And so the rhetoric that is what has happened here is false. And the one other thing I want to say is, and you've heard me say this many times, when people talk about states' rights, it's usually to violate somebody else's rights.
That is
You know,
true.
it started out a long time ago as something on paper as good, but I only see it used to violate other people's civil rights.
Yeah.
That said, there's a lot of stuff we don't want the federal government in there regulating, and it should be.
So do you think this is going to stop at states' rights, or do you think it's headed toward a complete national abortion ban?
Um, I would like to think that. How do I word this? I'm going to word it wrong. You can help me dissect it and put it back together. Um, I think that if Mississippi wants to ban abortions altogether, that is Mississippi's right as a state. However, if somebody from Mississippi wants to go to California and get an abortion, there's absolutely no way Mississippi should be able to prosecute for that when they get back home. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I get you. Well, let me give you a quote. And this is, I read this earlier in the broadcast. You probably weren't here yet, but this is a quote coming from former Vice President Mike Pence yesterday. This is what he said yesterday. Having been given this second chance for life, and he's talking about rolling back Roe versus Wade. Having been given this second chance for life, we must not rest and must not relent until the sanctity of life is restored to the center of American law in every state in the land. That is Mike Pence saying that.
Right. And
That
I'm
is
glad.
a that is him promoting a national abortion ban and suggesting that to restore the sanctity of life in American law in every state in the land.
Right. And I'm glad he's not in charge of anything anymore. And unfortunately, there's still a lot of people like him that are in charge of shit.
Yeah, but if we took away the AR-15 and AOC made a comment like this about taking away all guns, you would assume that the liberals are trying to take away all guns, wouldn't you?
Exactly. Yeah. And
Yeah.
where see for me, if I could separate a lot of these evangelicals in government if they actually lived up to regular decent morals, but the thing is they don't, so I know that they're just trying to push their religious agenda. And uh, if there's one thing in this current climate that we live in that is going to get people physically harmed, it's them shoving their religion down somebody's throat to the point where it affects their life. It's
Yeah.
one thing I've got to walk, if I got to listen to you on the megaphone, repent from the corner while the light's red, right? That's one thing. It's another if you knock on my door. I still got a lot of signs up. I'm going to yell at you. That's one thing. But when you start making me live by your religious code, nah, brother, it's on point. And these
Well,
people that think I have to live as a Christian, they got something coming for them.
yeah, and most people who are citing that they're happy that abortion was banned are promoting it from a standpoint of the Bible. I want to respond to a comment real quick. John 6:7 in the comment said he is not promoting a national ban. He's just simply stating the states have a right to go to either. No, in his actual comment says every state. His comment says that. I mean, he's saying we shall not. How could you not? How could you not hear this quote? I'll read it again, and you tell me how this does not sound like they're trying to go for every single state. Having been given the second chance for life, we must not rest and must not relent until the sanctity of life is restored to the center of American law in every state in the land. How could you not hear that and think that that's not a full national ban on abortion? You'd have to really spin that to make it sound like that's going to be left as states' rights.
Yeah, I stay comfortably naive. That's the first time I've heard the quote,
Yeah.
and me just hearing it is Mike Pence basically, and I'm really doing some speculating and reading into it, right? But okay, now that we have federally undone this thing, now California, if you're still performing abortions, you don't get money for XYZ. You know,
Yep.
that like they're not going to stop, and that's Mike Pence saying, even though you know, I don't live as an evangelical Christian, you will.
Yep.
That's what Pence is saying right there, man.
Yeah.
Um,
All
so
right, man. Well, you got to move it on as usual. You know how it works.
yeah, of course, man. Hey, I appreciate you having me on. Yeah, I saw you earlier on the other guys live, and you hold it together well, man. You hold it together well, man. There's some things I agree with them on, but what I don't agree on is how other people are treated by them. That's what
Yeah.
I'll leave. So, you have yourself a
Fair enough.
great.
All right, man. Always a pleasure. Always a pleasure. Okay. Yeah, and as my previous caller, their modern colonizer, was making a good point in saying that, yeah, if we want to keep it at states' rights, yeah, you can have the right to have pro-choice legislation in California, but we're not going to give you funding for this or funding for that. That's absolutely a possibility. For instance, remember that during the pandemic, that big, huge white hospital ship with the big, huge cross on it, they were claiming that they needed a hospital ship, and it was going over to Los Angeles and it was going over to the West Coast. At the time, it was either the governor of Washington or the mayor of Seattle said some really horrible things about President Trump. That guy stated that Trump called him on the phone and said, "You need to offer a public apology before I send this ship." And he refused to apologize, and Trump sent the ship to Los Angeles. So I'm just telling you, the federal government has the ability to play games with funding on different things. And if you want to be taking the life of babies in your state and they truly believe in the sanctity of life, there may be maybe welfare benefits or something that they'll play games with. Yeah, the idea that Mike Pence is not talking about a national abortion ban actually just sounds to me like right-wing spin. No different than the liberals when they say they're not talking about a full gun ban. We just want common sense gun legislation, or we just want to limit magazines. No, you want that to be the first thing you do. And then you're going to go to the next. It's crazy how many right-wingers clearly understand the phrase "give an inch, take a mile" when it comes to legislation they're not in favor of. But when it comes to legislation that they are in favor of, "give an inch, take a mile" seems to fall on deaf ears. It's the same thing. Giving the left too much power has the same effect as giving the right too much power. Going on to the back to the box. Joby, bringing Joby back to the program. Reagan held back highway funding. Yeah, that's good afternoon, Joby, or good evening.
Hey, man, how you doing?
I'm doing real good.
Well, first and foremost, you cannot. Criminalizing abortion is not going to make it go away. That's a fact.
I agree.
All that's going to do is make it unsafe for women and dangerous for women. That's all this is going to do. Nothing more than that. They're going
100% agree.
They're going to put women at risk in a major way, Middle class is going to suffer.
Here's my question though. What happens if a woman goes to the hospital? She goes to the ER because she's bleeding and she needs to be stabilized. And the doctors can determine that she was trying to terminate her pregnancy. Are the doctors going to be required to report that? Just like if you go to the hospital with a bullet wound right now. If you get shot and you go to the hospital with a bullet wound, the doctors are required to report that to the police. What if you go
Right.
there suffering from the effects of a botched abortion? Are they going to have to report that? This is another tentacle that's going to come out of this, but I'll let you continue.
Yeah, this is just tip of the iceberg. I mean, you got to think of the middle class, because wealthy women, they have the means to do this if they have to. The middle class and lower class don't have the means for this, so it's going to get very, very bad, and it's categorically discriminatory to these women, especially women of color. It's unfair, and then they know this. This is just, I think they have another agenda here that I don't think we're aware of yet.
Which is?
That's what I mean. We're not aware of it yet, but this is years in the making,
Oh.
years of planning.
Well,
Clarence
I
Thomas
can give you an
has been
answer to
working on.
that.
Yeah,
I
Clarence
can
Thomas
give
has
you
been working on this for decades.
Go.
And in this, I really believe that they're trying to make the United States a televangelical Christian state.
Yeah. I don't necessarily disagree with that. I do think that there are plenty of folks in power in this country that want us to return to Christian values and the Christian way of life. I mean, you hear it all the time about bringing God back in schools. Real quick in the comments, Ray, looks like it says Ray Ecker or something like that. You're suggesting that the way things are now, folks will think twice about getting an abortion. And this is what I mean when I say you can understand something on one side of the aisle, but not the other side of the aisle. If a liberal said a gun law or a gun ban would make people think twice about purchasing a gun, you would dismiss that as stupidity. But for some reason, when it comes to abortion, you think that this law is going to work. Same thing with the war on drugs. Did the war on drugs actually make people think twice about getting high? No, you can't legislate stupidity. I hear folks all the time say you can't fix stupid until it's something they want to fix. So, but Joby, in regards to you saying there may be a hidden agenda or something else out there, I had a show a few weeks ago about theory, and that is the notion that the minorities are increasing their numbers to the point where they may soon be the majority. Now, I'm not saying I submit to this theory, but I'm just explaining what I've heard, and folks can interpret it any way they like. Is that by banning abortion, you're making it so that certain folks' population numbers go up because
white folks.
Yeah, well, I'm just trying to be nice about it. But at the end of the day, African Americans and Hispanics tend to have more children, whereas the Caucasians tend to get a lot of other life affairs in order before they have children. So they only have a lesser amount of children. So some are arguing. Go ahead.
What's the fear in minorities and majorities shifting? What's the fear there? So what?
Power.
You're not the majority anymore.
I'm not defending it, man. I'm just explaining it. That's all I'm doing.
This country was founded on people came here to get away from religious oppression. This was the whole basis of America. Freedom of religion. And they came for that purpose alone, and look what they're doing. They're going against their forefathers.
So I'm just explaining it. I'm not saying I agree or disagree with it. This is what I've heard. And I did a show on the Great Replacement Theory, and it came up even in that show. So that's what I wanted to throw out there, is that when people talk about, is there a hidden agenda behind it or something like that, I have heard that come up more than once.
Do you think, in your opinion, do you think Biden should run in 2024?
Hell no. No. No, not unless something of great significance happens. But no, I cannot imagine. I mean, he obviously will be 82, I believe, 82, 80, somewhere around in there. So age is a factor. Certainly, you have a significant amount of Americans that think he's not within his mental faculties right now. So 2.5 years later. So yeah, definitely not. He has a very light schedule, which is you only see him pop up in a few places. Campaigning demand. You see what Trump was doing? He was everywhere, multiple states
Yep.
in the same day and shit like. I don't think Biden could entertain that schedule. So the answer is no.
Who if you had a choice to put somebody up for nomination, who would you want running?
Well, right now it's Alpha Bravo Bravo. Anybody but Biden. Um, you know, there's no way we're going to be to get Michelle Obama because I think Michelle Obama is the big joker. If we could get her, there's no other card on the table. I think if we could get her to run, she would win. But other than Michelle Obama,
What do you
wow.
think about Buttigieg?
Buttigieg would be. Oh, I mean, he would be competitive, but I'd have to see on the other. I don't think he could beat Ron DeSantis. And that may be who it because I'm starting to think that you won't see another Trump campaign either. I like my MAGA audience. I love my MAGA folks. Prefer talking to them all day, every day. But I would be lying if I was to say there's a guaranteed chance that Trump is going to be on the ticket. It's a possibility. It may not be Biden or Trump on the 2024 ticket. It's starting to look like that more and more every day. But on the left side of the aisle, Kamala Harris would be just literally like a John Kerry presidency, where you're just throwing somebody up there to give them a chance. I don't think Kamala Harris would be the person either. I would rather see Buttigieg or. Wow,
do you think Americans would vote for a gay man though, just on that basis?
If he comes up there like a gay man without all of the, for lack of a better term, without all the bullshit, you got to stay away from. And this could sound horrible for me to say this, but in regards to the LGBT community, that last letter, the T, that's the area you got to be cautious about. Playing sports for the other team, going into other bathrooms. That area of the LGBT community is very unpopular. If he comes up and he defends the L, the G, and the B, I think that he could probably be competitive and get votes. But all the stuff that the transgender community is promoting, it's incredibly unpopular. And it's hurting the rest of that community, by the way. So I would say that that's where you have a gray area.
What do you think of Trump when he said that the Roe versus Wade overturn hurt the Republican Party?
I agree with him. It should have been done after the midterms. I agree with him because you just lost the LGBT community. I mean, you just lost a lot of women, rather not the LGBT community, but you just lost a lot of women because it's going to go beyond just legislating responsibility with women. You're going to felonize women. There are going to be women that are going to go to jail behind this, and when it comes to botched abortions, there are going to be women that are going to die behind this. And not only that, but in states like Oklahoma, where they don't even have a provision for rape and incest, I mean, you're going to send some women into mental depression. I understand some of this stuff is extremes, but this is the kind of stuff that legislation or rolling back Roe versus Wade is going to do. It's an anti-woman move, period. Women did not benefit from that at all. That is an anti-woman play. So I agree with him on that.
Right. All right, man. Well, thanks for having me in, bro.
All right. Anytime, man. You know you're welcome back. Appreciate it.
Be safe.
You too. All right. It's an anti-murder place. Kill Bill. You can walk and chew bubble gum at the same time. It can be, if you want to say it's anti-murder, that's fine. But it's also anti-woman. It is also anti-woman because once a woman gets pregnant, how do we know if a woman has a miscarriage? How do we know that she didn't do that deliberately? Do we have to investigate her? If she did it deliberately, do we bring her up on charges? This stuff is coming because there's going to be women that are going to be so pissed off at the person that they are pregnant by that they're going to try to do stuff. And it's going to be people on the right, like yourself, that says it's an out of her. So the only way to do that is to hold her accountable. This is not good for women. It's good for the unborn, 100%. It's good for the unborn because it's making it so that any child that is conceived has a real chance at life. but it doesn't take into consideration the mental state of the woman, what she's been through. It's anti-woman. It's almost like you've reduced women to incubators, as the incubator is not very important. The child inside of the incubator is what we care about. And that's what it looks like. It's very anti-woman. So in regards to President Trump saying that it's a bad thing, yeah, I agree with him. I don't think it's going to help the female vote at all. And certainly at a time when the liberals under President Biden are at an all-time low. You just gave the liberals something serious to galvanize over. Okay, going back to the box. Memento. We talk often. It's time for men and women to take responsibility. This isn't going to do that. This is not going to make folks stop doing what they were doing. It's just going to make them find another way. Why can't my Second Amendment folks understand that? If you ban something, people will find another way. Why does that fall on deaf ears when it comes to abortion? Memento, good afternoon. Good evening.
Hey, how you doing? I figured out how to turn the
I'm
camera
doing good. I can see you.
Hey, I've been listening for a little while, and
Okay.
I wanted to say I don't think abortion can be banned nationally.
Why can't it?
It goes back to the states' rights, and I know that's got a bad a lot of times that has a bad connotation to it, but states' rights is really for the people to be able to exercise democracy. Really, they can vote at the state level. We can vote on bills and legislation and stuff, where at the federal level, that's only our representatives doing it, and they do a poor job of representing us there. Now
Well,
I know, like,
go ahead.
oh, like I heard you saying earlier that sometimes the federal government can punish a state, like by withholding funding and stuff. So that
Right.
I know those games are played. What do you say? That's like it's done by proxy. It's not really done legally. It's just
Right.
it's kind of like I don't know,
And there's no
blackmail
way
or
to
something.
stop it. There's no way to
Right.
stop it either.
Right. I don't think it can be done nationally though, and I hope that people will read the decision. I spent part of yesterday reading Dobbs v. Jackson, the decision, just so I would get a better understanding of what it would go on. You know, I'm against the protests because you don't know what that person, the people around you, are going to do. The protests keep devolving into riots and things like that. So I'd rather be armed with knowledge than to just be out on the street surrounded by people who might be acting a fool, you know?
Right. Well, here's my spiel in regards to you saying they're not going to do it, or you don't think it can be national. I guess the first question I would ask you is whether you think it can be national or not. Do you think they will try to make it national?
They might try because again, they can do those things by proxy. If you have a lot of Republicans in power, then they'll do things one way. They'll withhold the funding or something. Or if you have a lot of Democrats in power, they'll do it on something else. I mean, we've seen that happen. But I hope that people can understand what that decision was, and then fight for what they believe in, and bring in scientists and medical professionals to work with their local representatives, you know, their state level representatives, say, hey, you can't ban this. We need it for life. We need it for life saving. It needs to be allowed for minors who got pregnant. It needs to be if you know, it needs to be allowed for rape and incest.
Fair enough. Here's what I was trying to say in regards to making it national. Just like with Ketanji Brown, there was a legal reason for them asking her to define what a woman is. Is because if you define what a woman is on the Supreme Court, that would immediately eradicate any rights for transgenders. If you get the Supreme Court to rule on the actual definition of what a woman is, that would destroy transgender rights in the future. And I believe that may happen. Well, in regards to what we're talking about, all you need to do is get the Supreme Court to define what murder is. And if you can get them to define it as from the moment of conception, deliberately destroying that life from the moment of conception, that would mean that any state that is legalizing abortion, the liberal states, for instance, they're committing an act of murder, which would then go against federal law. So all you need is somebody from a right-wing state that tries to have an abortion and is criminalized for doing so, for that to go to the courts, for that person to say, you're criminalizing me for an abortion and this is not murder. And once that goes to the Supreme Court and the Supreme Court defines abortion as murder, then the liberal states are now committing murder. And that would make the national ban enacted just by doing that.
Yeah, you bring up a very good point right there. I hadn't quite thought all of that through. That's why I like to talk to you. You've got an opposing view that can open my eyes. It takes
Thank
more
you.
than one perspective
Thank
to
you. Appreciate
understand
that.
this. Um,
Yeah, and
I'm-
that's the easiest path I can think of. It's just to get the Supreme Court on record as defining it as murder. Once it becomes a legal precedent that they've already ruled that it's murder, and a 6-3 majority, they would almost certainly rule that an abortion is murder. So it's legal precedent at that point. So now anybody, if you go and commit a crime, if you go and have an abortion in a liberal state, the baby's dad or anybody could have you arrested for murder. You killed somebody, and the Supreme Court has ruled it's murder.
yeah, that would be weaponized against all of it, I guess. Again, that really needs to be. I'm not going to say it needs to be settled, but perhaps that could be settled with medical doctors and biologists and scientists saying that, look, there's a difference between life, or like the Supreme Court is talking about potential life, or personhood, and all these other definitions and terms that get kind of tossed around but remain a little bit ambiguous. I'm pro-abortion to an extent. I'm not pro-abortion. I'm sorry. I'm pro-choice to an extent, is what I meant to say. But I mean, I'm pro-life and pro-choice.
Right.
I'm just not on either extreme.
I think most Americans are pro-choice and pro-life. They're okay with abortion up to a short period of time.
Yeah, if something horrific has happened to a young woman, or any woman really, if there should be a choice. If it wasn't of her doing, there definitely should be a choice. And that's one part I mean. However, some of the legislation that gets written does more or less allow for an abortion to be done up until the time of birth, the full 9 months.
Yeah, and I think I would say that overwhelmingly, even the liberal side of the aisle, most people are not in favor of that. Real quick in the comments, Rep 83-119, we talk a lot. 83-19 says, wrong as usual. Stop with the nonsense. It's Congress that passed federal laws. In this case, when it comes to rolling back Roe versus Wade, women have been allowed to have abortions for the last 50 years, and it had nothing to do with any law in Congress. So that shows you things can happen irrespective to Congress. So yeah, the notion that a national abortion law would have to come through Congress, the fact that you can have an abortion, even though it's not a constitutionally protected thing, where you could have an abortion for the last 50 years. Congress had nothing to do with that. So you're right in regards to passing a law that's etched in stone, but Roe versus Wade shows you that you can have laws and you can have behaviors in this country that do not have to go through Congress. But I'll let you continue, Memento.
Yeah, I really just came on to say I don't think it can be done at a national scale, and to support that stance is that I'm trying to have some faith in the people that they will read the opinion and start getting the definitions of terms and understand how they can fight for it and how they can approach their state legislators and say, look, this is a medical procedure that may be necessary at times. And these are the instances where it may be necessary. I think a lot more people, like you were saying, didn't you say 70% of people are pro-choice, to an extent?
Pro-choice up to about close to the end of the first trimester. About
Yes, sir.
70% of Americans are in favor of a woman's right to choose up to about the end of the first trimester. After that, the numbers start dropping drastically.
Yes, sir. And I don't like that the media or, the mayor of Chicago was saying, well, now they're coming for gay marriage and everything else. And nothing of the sort that's actually directly, uh, uh, refuted in this opinion. If you read it multiple times.
Well,
Um,
here's the problem I have with that.
mhm.
When Trump appointed those three Supreme Court justices, they were asked questions about any intentions they would have in regards to rolling back Roe versus Wade. They all lied. They all made it sound like it's already been adjudicated. We're not even going to go down that road anymore. And here we are. So when you say that in that statement they released, it makes it clear they're not going to go further than this. Nobody believes them at this point because they're on video making it seem like they were not going to touch Roe versus Wade, and here they are. So I don't know what they said in it. I didn't read the entire release, but yeah,
Yeah.
nobody believes them at this point.
Well, what they said when they were questioned, they said things like, it's precedent. They said it was. I think one of them stated that it was settled law,
Right. And they
and
unsettled it. And they
everything.
just
They
unsettled it.
basically, yeah, they didn't say we won't take a look at it and correct the mistake. Um, I think overturning it was the right thing to do, according to what I read. I read the leaked opinion, and now I've read this, the Dobbs v. Jackson, decision. I know it upsets a lot of people, and that's why I want to say that you've got to read it yourself. Don't get caught up in what somebody else tries to tell you that it says, and then you need to go and do your part. Like it's your responsibility and duty to arm yourself with the knowledge. Following a crowd is easy, but that crowd may get you in trouble. Look at January 6th. Look how those people were manipulated
Yeah.
into doing that, and they're still paying for it, and we're still talking about it. And
Yeah.
we gotta take it upon ourselves and have that responsibility to read these things and try to understand them, and then know how to, I guess, properly fight against what we fear may happen.
Well, the only way to fight against what just took place with this is to get a 60 seat majority in the Senate and vote and actually come up with a law that makes abortion, which is what they should have did. And Ruth Bader Ginsburg brought this up before, but something they should have
Yes.
did a long time ago because they had a 60 seat. I think they had a majority under Obama, if I'm correct, but they should have done that. They should have wrote it in the law and made it so that the only way it could be overturned is with another majority or something like that. They just trusted that the Supreme Court would just leave it as is, as you said, as a legal precedent. We're not going to go back to that. And the Supreme Court has just shown that they will, which is why a lot of folks on the left believe that stuff like gay marriage and interracial marriage and a lot, because there's no constitutional right to interracial marriage. There is no constitutionally protected right for you to have that. So they
That's
can, despite folks believing it's ridiculous, they can do that because if you had went 2-3 years ago and said that the Supreme Court was going to overturn Roe versus Wade, they would have accused you of fear mongering. They would have said that is ridiculous. And look at where we are now.
I see your point with that, but I would say that who you marry, whether that whatever kind of marriage you have, or interracial marriage or same-sex marriages, should be looked at as, part of the pursuit of happiness, and our basic rights, our natural rights, whether you believe in God or not. Even our natural rights are to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And if that's part of your happiness, that cannot be touched. I don't see. I mean, again, if you have an administration that leans one way or the other, by proxy, they can sort of punish the states for upholding certain rights or whatever. The left may really promote one thing and the right may promote or demonize another thing, but that is part of your pursuit of happiness. Even Clarence Thomas's wife is, of a different race.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'm just simply saying, and I understand your opinion on pursuit of happiness. Your opinion on pursuit of happiness is mine as well. But at the end of the day, you and I also both believe a woman should have a right to choose, at least in the first trimester. And look where we're at. So they stated that your ability to have an abortion is not a constitutionally protected right. So when the liberals start pointing to these other things that they think that they may investigate, it's because that stuff also is not constitutionally protected, and it is very unpopular with the right wing, particularly same-sex marriage and a lot of LGBT issues. That stuff is incredibly unpopular with right wingers. So it would not. I'm not gonna. I agree with you on Clarence Thomas. I don't think that he would be in favor of undoing interracial marriage. But LGBT rights, I would place money on that. I would place money that if we get a Republican president in 2024, particularly somebody who's pretty far to the right, I would bet money that they're going to at least look into rolling back LGBT rights. I totally believe that.
I think I would take the bet against you.
I would be there for that.
Because though, but here's because you're saying it's not a constitutional right. Well, actually, I believe under the 14th Amendment, your same-sex marriages and your lifestyle and everything is protected by the Constitution now. That's my interpretation of it.
Okay.
Whereas
I'm not aware of that. The 14th Amendment gives you the right to say.
I'll say it's that one. And reading this opinion kind of touched on that too, where it says, let's see, it says, and to ensure that our decision is not misunderstood or mischaracterized, we emphasize that our decision concerns the constitutional right to abortion and no other right. Nothing in this opinion should be understood to cast doubt on precedents that do not concern abortion. Obviously, we know that may not be the case.
Yeah, I don't trust him. I'm gonna read that opinion. Yeah, I'm gonna read that opinion. I gotta move it. I'm gonna give you the last word, but I'm gonna read that opinion because you brought it up. But I absolutely, just my own self. The audience might be different. My audience is primarily right wing. That's fine. But I absolutely do not trust the Supreme Court based on what those three folks, how they answered those questions when they were being appointed. After seeing that, I'm not going to totally take anything they say as the gospel truth. I think they'll change their mind in a heartbeat. But I'll let you get the last word.
It's good to be skeptical. The last thing I'll say, I'll read this excerpt or whatever from the same decision. Rights regarding contraception and same-sex relationships are inherently different from the right to abortion because the latter, as we have stressed, uniquely involves what Roe and Casey termed potential life.
Okay,
and that's just to say that abortion's not in the Constitution, but the other things, as far as the right to privacy, what you do in the bedroom, and all that stuff, that more or less is protected by the Constitution. But I respect and understand that you may not believe or have that much faith in the Supreme Court.
I think that right now they're saying what you do in the bedroom, we respect that. They may come back later and change their mind on it. Yeah, I don't. There's no way I would take that as the gospel truth. Appreciate you coming through, man.
All right, appreciate you for having me. Thanks.
All right, anytime. And by the way, I do believe it would be very. I do believe if they were to roll back LGBT rights, it would be very, very popular on the right side of the aisle. I mean, I think that particularly with transgender, which is why I said the T crowd, I think just about any rights for transgender are incredibly unpopular. Everything from the surgery to you being able to go in different bathrooms, the pronouns. I'm just saying this because this is the stuff that I hear. I've been debating with right wingers for 20 years. And these are the things that I hear a lot of criticism about in regards to the LGBT community. Is to all of the added pronouns, exposing it to children, the bathrooms, playing on a different side of athletic teams, and all of this stuff pertains to the transgender portion of that community. So any loss of rights in regards to transgender would be welcomed by the right. I would tell you, I don't think there is any love for the transgender community among right wingers. That's my opinion. I know I'm going to be hated for it, but this is a free speech forum, and you're willing to get on here and tell me where to go with that. So, going back to the box to political TikTok. Let's see here. Me and sports don't have a problem. Okay. Amen. Yep. Okay. Political TikTok. Good afternoon.
What's going on?
Nothing at all, man.
Can
Tell me
you
where
hear?
I'm getting it wrong.
Well, you're not too far off. First, I wanted to say I watched your live with Snacks and them earlier. That was hilarious. And I've debated them before. I think it was a lady in there, and they were talking about children being groomed by the LBG, whatever it is, community. And they won't. They're very adamant. But you did a pretty good job. I just wanted to tell you that.
Thank you. Thank you.
I guess what I'll go to next is the abortion topic. I'm personally speaking for myself, I'm pro-life, but I think as a policy standpoint, I would say that I'm pro-choice because I think these decisions are serious decisions, and just hearing some of the stories on Facebook, hearing people this and that, and it's just better to keep it between them and their doctors. That's just what I've come down to. And I think my religion does play a part in it. And I refuse to put my religious beliefs.
You're Christian.
Yeah. Okay. And I refuse to put that on everyone else. Because even in the Christian belief, you have Catholic, you have this, you have that. Everyone has different, opinions and beliefs. So to try to put that on the whole country, I think it's irresponsible. And like you said, I would never trust the Supreme Court. Definitely with them having this big majority like that. You can't believe anything they say.
I'll let you continue, but let me say this in regards to that. For all of the stuff that the liberals are saying, they're going to take LGBT rights. They're going to reverse interracial marriage. If you are on the right and you think that what the left is saying is crazy and that the Supreme Court is never going to go down those avenues, I will just tell you this. Imagine what you think would happen if the liberals had a 6-3 Supreme Court majority. And just understand where the left is coming from. If we had a 6-3 majority, you would think we're going to take away all guns. You would think that every bathroom in the country is going to be unisex. You just think about where your mind would go. So you should understand it coming from the other side. But I'll let you continue, political TikTok.
I guess just to close out, because I got stuff to do here, but I did want to go back to what you had said when they were talking about the 2014 or 2024 candidates. I do believe only way I can see Biden running again is if the economy got better. If it's like it is right now, no, I don't believe that he'll run. But I think if he doesn't run, I think Kamala would obviously be the second choice because she's the vice president of the United States. So
she's tied to that
administration. Not an automatic. You say again?
She's tied to the failures of that administration. She went down to the border and couldn't even answer simple questions.
If you look at the history, though, usually the vice president steps up. Usually, not all the time. Dick Cheney didn't run. But with like Al Gore, and it usually, unless there's not a Democrat in office, then someone on the outside comes in. But I would think that if it's not Joe, it would be Kamala, and she'll probably run with Pete. And then on the Republican side, like you said, I think Donald's going to run. But if Donald doesn't run, I think Ron DeSantis will run. But
I'm curious to see what ends up with the January 6 hearings and with the case in New York and with the case in Georgia on Trump. There's not a case in Arizona on Trump, is it? I'm really curious to see if he comes out of all of this still being able to run. I think that somebody may get to him and let him know that because I don't think they really want to jail Trump. I just think they want him out of the way. And just like with Hillary Clinton, there was no real effort to put Hillary Clinton in jail. They just want her out of the way. And if Trump announces that he's not going to run, all of the investigations against him go away. He won't have to explain what he did with the 250 million stop the steal money that he collect. All of that stuff will go away. The federal government, liberals in charge, or whoever hates Trump, all of that stuff goes away if he announces he's not going to run. Just like Hunter Biden's laptop. If Biden announces he won't run in 2024, Hunter Biden will be fine. The same thing with Hillary Clinton. They just want you out of the way. And right now, Trump is in the way. So I'm wanting to see with all of the investigations, because they're taking as many swings at him as possible, if any of those swings will hit their mark. I don't think he's going to be in the 2024 on the
Well,
2024 ticket at this point. Go ahead.
well, I was going to say our best chance, and this is just my personal opinion, as a liberal or as a moderate. I call myself a moderate, not really a liberal.
Okay.
But I would say our best chance is Donald Trump, because there's so much baggage there. You
mean from a
Ron
liberal
DeSantis probably
standpoint? Wait. What do you mean? You say our best chance? You mean as a liberal running against a candidate?
Yes, I'm saying that if Trump was to run, I personally think now the economy would have to get better, because
Right.
that's the most important thing to people, is the economy and their pocketbooks. If the economy is what it is right now and Joe Biden and Donald Trump ran again, Joe Biden will get his ass whooped. There's just
Right.
no doubt in my mind. But if we can get the economy under control in these 2 years, then people may say, okay, I mean, he wasn't the best, but, gas ain't $5 a gallon anymore. They might have a little bit more trust. But if
I don't
gas
think that's
stays
going
at
to
where it's
happen,
at,
though. Yeah, I get your point, and I don't think that's going to happen, because he's going to be a lame duck president come November if the red wave, which everyone expects to happen, takes place. If there's a Republican Senate and Congress, or if either one of those go Republicans, they are not going to help him get the economy back on track. They're just like with Obama. Even though a lot of the country was in favor of Obamacare, he wasn't in control of everything toward the end of his term. So it's like, we're not going to help this guy put in place what
yeah.
could be one of the best healthcare plans in a while. We're not going to help him do that. And they're not.
No, you're fine. I was just going to say, I think who's really going to get this economy under control is going to be the Federal Reserve.
Okay.
I think that's why they're raising the interest rates, because they're trying to slow down the demand, definitely in the housing market. That's why even the mortgage rates are now 7%. So it's going to slow down the demand for people to want to buy houses, and that'll then basically have some type of effect on the price of a house.
Let me ask you this: What do you think of? Here's a comment this is a comment coming from user Patricia. What do you think about this? She's suggesting in the midterms. Do you think what happened with Roe versus Wade might make you think it might help?
Oh, it's going to help tremendously, because, like I said, right now, what do we have that Biden has done? Maybe infrastructure. I think they did pass that bipartisan gun legislation today, but see, no one's talking about that. You know what I mean? So it's not out there. The Republicans, I feel like they helped him do that right at the right time. They're like, yeah, let's help him do that. But then they won't talk about it, because now they're talking about this. You see what I'm saying? But it's done.
Yeah.
But no one's talking. No one, because this is the first time they've passed gun legislation in years. And Biden was the big one.
I will say
Biden
this.
was the big one saying, Biden was the big one saying, hey, I could beat the NRA. I did it once. I can do it again. Well, he just did it again, but no one's even saying anything,
Fair enough. All right. Well, I do got to move it on. I got the box filled. Let me get out of here, but appreciate you coming through, man.
Talk to you.
All right. All right. You too. And what he said, I will say this, because a lot of folks always talk about this is a distraction, that is a distraction. And right now, as poorly as the Biden administration appears to be doing, poll numbers are horrible. You got 3 distractions going on. You got January 6th. You got the Supreme Court with the Second Amendment, relaxing Second Amendment laws like crazy. And now you got Roe versus Wade. So for any of you guys who are always yelling distraction, it looks like the right side of the aisle has definitely provided several of them. I'm a smartass. Let's go to the bottom. Smartass. Let's see if he pops up here.
I popped up. I'm
Yeah. Hey, what's up, man? How you doing?
doing all right. So I had time to process the whole Roe v. The Roe v. Wade thing and the impact and so on and so forth. So I was on a live last night. It kind of got the wheels spinning on things. Let's pull away from the personal aspect and let's look at the impact that this will have from a business side.
Talk to me.
So, if I'm not mistaken, most of our modern vaccines and so on and so forth and medicines that we take have aborted fetus cells in them, if I'm not mistaken. Little bit of
I
reading.
can't speak on that. I'd have to look that. I can't speak on that.
Right. Well, I was on a live and they looked it up and they said that they found that there's retinal fetus cells in some of our vaccines that either in the testing process or so on and so forth that get it to where we ended up taking it. And if I'm not mistaken, the COVID-19 vaccine was very open about having aborted fetus cells as part of the vaccine, and that was how you were able to get a religious exemption from your employer to not having to take them. So with all
So
that,
what are you suggesting? If they ban abortion, there won't be any way to make vaccines?
I'm not saying there's necessarily a way to make vaccines, but if you look at it from a business standpoint, with this RV Wade getting overturned, and we'll just say for sake of argument that we're split right down the middle, 25-25, between red states and blue states, with this decision being put down, Big Pharma just took a 50% hit on
Okay,
medical.
in the comments, I got several people saying that is debunked what you talked about. So I'd have to look that up. I have never heard that.
So I don't know. It said there was one I was on, and she pulled it up. She was at a .gov site, and it said that retinal fetus cells are used.
Okay, I'd have to look into that more because that's an interesting way of looking at it. I mean, but it's hard to imagine advancing medical science without some form of experimentation on humans. I think there's probably a lot more stuff happening from a sinister side of the aisle than they tell us. Because if you cannot experiment on humans, medicine will advance at a far slower pace. But go ahead.
Right. But yeah, that was something that just kind of came to me, sit there, and then it ended up getting looked up to find that out. And then another one from from a more voting constituent point, this is more accountability. It puts accountability back on the American people because now, we had said yesterday, the federal courts have put control back to the states, which is.
Give me what do you mean by accountability? I don't get that.
Okay, so with abortions getting outlawed, and this is again another point that was kind of brought up with a live that I was in last night, is we're just going to go the infidelity route. Okay, say daddy's a traveling businessman, goes to the bar, gets an itch, gets a mistress pregnant. Well, now that it's outlawed and he's a married man, he can't have that problem fixed. And then the same goes for the other way around. If you have a stay-at-home wife that gets lonely, goes to the bar, gets an itch, gets pregnant, but now she has her financial security out making her money, but she gets pregnant by another man. If her husband finds out about that, there goes her financial security. So how do you
I get your point, but what about the notion that that's something that should be handled by those couples and not legislated by the government?
Well, that's what I mean. So that's what I mean, in my opinion, with the federal government ruling on this to putting control back to the state, it's again state control. There's a couple people that I've told, now with it being put back on the state level, come midterms, if you live in a red state and you don't like what that red state's doing, then by all means, now you literally have the power to change state legislation and vote to have either Republicans pushed out and Democrats brought in to bring elected officials that more align with your belief system or not. It is literally back to the people's choice. So if you live in a red state, but if you're left leaning but live in a red state, well, come midterms now, all the left leaning people can go to the ballots and say, hey, you know what? Yeah, we're in a red state, but this gentleman that aligns more with my belief system, is going down this road, I'm going to vote for him. And then things get changed at the state level.
Here's the problem I have with that. I always bring up the Missouri law where they have a law in the books that makes an unborn embryo inside of a woman a resident of the state of Missouri. And the congresswoman in the state said that we passed this law so that if any of our citizens go somewhere else, they can be held accountable for what happens to that resident. So the point I'm trying to make is I don't see any way in hell that this is going to stop at states' rights. If you are a true evangelical, a true person who believes in protecting the sanctity of life, you're not going to be okay with taking a life of the unborn because it's happening 30 miles down the road across a river or in a different state. If you know it's happening across the river in that other state, you can see the building over there. That building is going to look like a structure at Auschwitz with smoke coming out the chimney. You're going to want to get that building out of operation. Just because it's across state lines is not going to stop that. And they're going to, I don't care if it's donating money to the opposing politician in that state, boycotting businesses, whatever the case may be, they are going to want to stop this nationwide. If you're for protecting babies, you're for protecting babies. That don't change because they're across the border from you.
Oh, I understand that, but it's again, like I said, in my opinion, with the federal government, with the Supreme Court kind of saying, "Hey, it's back on the state." Now, like I said, it's on the people. If you're in a red state and you don't like it, by all means, go to the polls and get that congressperson that pushed that bill through in Missouri. Get them out. You can vote them out now.
Now, you're pro Second Amendment, right?
Yeah, I'm pro Second Amendment.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure I've heard you. This is what I don't get. Why do folks, the pro Second Amendment crowd, believe if you ban guns, criminals will always be able to find a way? But for some reason, they believe banning abortion is going to stop stuff.
Well, it's right again, but it's
outlaw coat hangers.
But again, it's for the people. So if you count out, if you count out, it's people are going to do what people are going to do regardless of what laws are made. Criminals are criminals because they're not law-abiding.
So why do it then?
Because we the people. It's what our country was founded on. It's we the people. So
you think banning abortion is just as dumb as banning guns then, right?
I wouldn't say it's just as dumb, but it's, again, I'm not going to put any intelligent level on it, but again, it's we the people. So the majority of the people, or the people's voice, is going to be heard. It's what our country was founded on. So if the majority of the people agree that we need to be able to open carry and follow our constitutional rights, as opposed to banning abortion, which isn't a constitutional right. Now, if it was in the Constitution, completely different story. Do these two matters kind of parallel with each other? Of course they do. Because you can apply...
I get the difference that one is in the Constitution and one is not. I'm just simply saying, though, if you believe that banning something will not stop criminals from finding another way, I don't think the Constitution has anything to do with it. If a person is going to find another way to do it, they're going to find another way to do it.
Exactly, but see, it's like one of the lives I was in last night. It was mostly women. I was like the only guy in it, and I brought this point out, and I said, okay, because the women were in. I said, okay, here's one for you to think about. I said, because like the gun thing got brought up, right? And I said, okay, so you have 3 solid women that use the court systems to honestly just get what's right for kids, for themselves, so on and so forth. I said, but unfortunately, you have 97 other women that have weaponized the court system to use it for their advantage to get what they want. So to say, and it's the same thing for gun rights. You have, say, 97 law-abiding gun enthusiast citizens that are practicing and following the laws, but you have 3 bad ones. Well, the 3 bad ones is why the Second Amendment is up and hot the way it is. The same as abortion is up and hot the way it is, because there's 3 good women, and we'll just say 3% of the women are saying, damn it, it's my body, my rights, I should have the choice. Because they are,
3%? I think overwhelmingly when it comes to women, most women believe in my body, my choice. I don't think there's a whole lot of, most of the women that are anti-abortion are at the age where it's not an issue anymore. When you look at women that are under 40, The notion that they could go to jail for murder for exercising pro-choice rights is not very popular. Look at all of the protests and things like that going on. It's young people. It's young people.
That's the thing that kills me. Like, California is having protests right now. I live in Washington State. We're having protests 10 miles down the road from me in Seattle, and it makes me scratch my head why they're doing this, because it's legal. There's nothing got infringed on. Their right to go get a baby
Excellent.
is
I'll tell you why.
Go ahead.
Okay, I'll tell you what. You said it's legal in Washington or California to have an abortion, so why are you having a protest? It's the same reason why people who live in states where it is illegal to have an abortion are going to still be pissed off, because they want it nationwide. They want pro-choice rights nationwide. And that's the same mindset that's going to be from the pro-life crowd, is they want their beliefs to be exercised nationwide.
Again, falls back on we the people. So if left-leaning people in red states are so heartfelt in wanting their voices heard that abortion should be legal, why aren't we seeing, and again, I haven't really watched the news, so I could be off canter with this, where are all the protests and such not in the red states saying we're pro-choice? Where are all the pro-choice people in the red states? Because you can see them all over the place in the blue states. So
they're there. They are having them. You can tell me you don't think there's any protests in St. Louis. There's no protest in Memphis. There are plenty of protests in red states. You may not be seeing it on the news you watch. Here's what I would tell you to do. Go on Google and find out who ABC is for, whatever the ABC newsletter, WM whatever they are, for ABC Memphis or ABC Birmingham or ABC Jacksonville, Florida. I guarantee if you go to their website, they're talking about protests that are happening in those cities. There's plenty of it happening.
Right. And again, I don't doubt it one bit, but it's the little bit that I have seen on the news so far. They're covering all blue states getting upset about it. So I have to go dig.
Because the protests are bigger in blue states, but they're happening. This is like when folks used to tell me about how violent the Black Lives Matter rally protests are. And I would tell them, any state in America, or any city in America that has a population of over 50,000 has had a Black Lives Matter rally protest. I don't care if it's in Idaho. Boise, Idaho has had Black Lives Matter protests. So any city in America that has had over 50,000, that has a population of over 50,000 people, has had at least one Black Lives Matter protest. They haven't all been violent. They haven't all made the national news, but they have absolutely happened. And women protesting what just took place yesterday, it's happening all over southern red-wing states.
Well, then again, falls back on we the people. They're making their voices being heard. So the only way you can don't like, get off the couch come, midterms, and go vote somebody in that more aligns with your belief system. You don't like what the federal courts did? By all means, they have given the people their power back to get what they want. So if they're, again, if red-leaning states have enough left-leaning people in there, by all means, vote the Republicans out. Get Democrats in to align with your, or vice versa. That's what I'm saying. That's, in all honesty, with taking the because we have a lot of people that are all up in their feels, but if you honestly look at the judgment that was made by the Supreme Court, they put it back on the people. So let's the people get out and make their voices heard and make the changes that they want to see happen come November.
And I get your point, but it's a very passionate topic. No different than if for some reason the liberals got a chance to ban, the AR-15 or ban guns. This is on that level with the liberals. If you ban guns, the right would not be doing the stuff that you just suggested. They would be far more angry, far more aggressive, just like the women are. Because this is a very passionate topic. They're not going to, what you're talking about, get out there and exercise and vote. No, they don't. The minute you take away those rights, they're pissed off now. They're not going to wait to an election. No different if you take away gun rights. They're not going to wait to an election. They're pissed off now.
Upset now, which is fine, and it's a justified emotion to have. But again, what can you all do about it now except get out and say, hey, we're pissed off about this. So stay pissed off about it for, let's see, what we are, June? End of June? So stay pissed off about it for another 4 months. Get your ass out the house, get to the voting booths, and vote your people in. Stay
I think
mad.
I
They're
think they're
right.
going to take. Yeah, I think they're going to take your advice. I do believe that the liberals are going to take your advice on that. Stay pissed off until June or until November. I think they're going to take that advice. I got to move on as usual, man. But I'll give you the last word. Go ahead.
But I think everybody's going to be coming out in November. We might actually have a full turnout and less mail-in ballots. With all the conspiracy theories and so on and so forth that were surrounded around mail-in ballots and cropping and so on and so forth. I think something like this will actually get people out in person to vote.
Well,
So
I'm sure you are aware that a high voter turnout is usually not good for Republicans.
and again, we the people. I don't agree with Biden in office. I wasn't a fan of Obama, but it is what it is. We just have to deal with it the best we can. But whoever gets elected in, they better fucking fix our goddamn economy and get our gas prices and food prices back down to affordable, because this is bullshit.
Well,
So,
I'm not a fan of the economy either. But when you start talking about potentially throwing somebody in jail for pro-choice rights, I think they don't paying $5 a gallon for gas or a couple extra dollars for a box of cereal takes a back seat to potentially going to jail for murder. So I think that this Supreme Court ruling actually may have taken some of the heat off of President Biden for his failures. That's why I say it was a bad thing, and so does Trump. Apparently, even Trump thinks it was a bad thing to do this right now.
right.
But
I see Times. He posted that there was the New York Times is the only one I seen with that. But and then another, oh shit, where in the hell was I going with? God damn it, I brain farted. Get the next guy in. You have a good day. When I remember it, I'm pretty sure this will be up for the next 2-3 days. So I'll pop back in for the thing I just brain farted.
unless they rule on something else, catch you later.
All
Right, he's right. This probably will be being discussed for a few days. But we live in a 24-hour news cycle, and I'm about to go to the box. I see the box is open. Right now we're discussing Roe v. Wade. A couple days ago, they rolled back, or they better yet, they loosened the Second Amendment rights. Before that, it was President Trump with January 6th. Before that, Ubalde. Before that, Buffalo. A lot of shit happens in this country really, really fast. Okay, going into Wolverine USA. To Wolverine. Let's see what's going on this evening. Good evening, Wolverine.
What's up?
Nothing at all. Listen, have you seen any type of protest of any significance in your area?
Yes, sir.
What was it peaceful?
Yeah, they're not tearing up our downtown like they did. They destroyed our downtown. We had a downtown that hit the skids in the 80s and 90s. It used to be great, and then it went down the tubes. And we recently got it rebuilt, and it was looking beautiful. And then the old BLM came in and fucked it all up. But the
Stitch
protest
real
today.
quick. Let me just say something real quick in the comments. Stitch of Truth. I didn't. You weren't next. You're next now. You were not skipped. But go ahead, Wolverine.
Yeah, Wolverine gets priority here, you know. So I was wondering if I could start a couple fires real quick and then bail.
Sure, go ahead.
All right. So first off, on y'all were talking about the vax and the fetal cells. You know what I'm saying? So my friend was forced into getting the vax from his work, and he's pretty heavy Christian. Blah blah blah. He didn't want to take the mRNA vaccine, so he chose the fetal cell one, which is the Johnson and Johnson. Okay. The other ones are mRNA. The Johnson and Johnson's is based on fetal, or it has fetal cells. The other ones don't. Just to let you know. Okay.
Okay.
Another thing.
I don't know on that. I looked it up online, and I do see Snopes discredited in regard to
Yeah.
Pfizer. I didn't look up
Okay.
Johnson and Johnson, but
Okay.
I got an article right in front of me that says
Yeah.
Pfizer does not have that.
All right. Well, let me get into this. That's exactly where I was going next. Okay. So my mom is a heavy left-leaning liberal. Okay. Scared to death of Corona. Okay. She went
Okay.
and got the Moderna vaccines when they first came out with my stepfather. Okay.
Okay.
Don't really have a wholehearted relationship with them, but they decided to stop by my son's birthday party one day out of the blue, and old conspiracy Wolverine
Uh-huh.
went straight to the refrigerator and got a magnet that had a clip that we clip our to-do list on.
Okay.
I ripped the magnet off of the back of the clip and asked my mom if I could see if it would stick to her injection site. My wife and my kids were all on my ass for, believing these things that I hear, blah blah blah, seeing what I see on TikTok. So took the magnet, rubbed it across my mom's arm, and lo and behold, in one spot it stuck. Okay, and everybody's jaws hit the floor, right? So they started blah 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 blah. I said, "Well, hold up. Stepdad's here. Let's try his arm." Boom. Same thing. I go online to try to find some information out about it, and I'm called a liar. Snoops is all on there. There's nothing, no information about a magnet sticking to an injection site online. It is all saying it's conspiracy, it's Snoops, it's blase blahs, right?
So well, what relevant? Okay, let's say a magnet does stick to you. What is that trying to point out?
Well, do you think heavy metals are good in your body?
No, I don't. I guess I've heard this before when this was real popular back in the day, and
It
I've
was, and
always heard of it being
it got
debunked.
snuffed out by Snoops. So look, it kind of, I was on the fence on the vaccine, but I said, you know what? If I can have my questions answered and the red flags that I have answered logically, then I'll go with it. So I went to my doctor and I asked this man, I've never heard of that. He says, I'm going to go home and try it. I said, well, which one do you have? He says, I have the Pfizer. And I said, well, I can't attest to that. I can just attest to the Moderna. And I challenge anybody that says I'm a liar. I'll give you $10,000 to come watch and tell me it didn't happen. $10,000. I will pay in cash. If you say it's not true, I'll take you to my mother's house and I will show anybody.
Okay, okay. And you said she had Johnson and Johnson, right?
No, she had Moderna.
Okay, I've gotten Pfizer and I've been boosted as well. So
Yeah, so
I
I told my doctor, I said, if you could answer these questions for me or show me, some information that says, the metals or blah, blah, blah safe and the magnet does stick or it doesn't stick or whatever, I'll take the damn vaccine. Well, guess what? He ain't told me nothing. He ignores it. When I spoke about it, he acted like I was a snake in the room, and
All
so
right. Well, look, I don't want to get too deep into this, and I certainly don't want to get banned. But
right.
um,
Well, look, I don't understand why you would get banned for just an honest question. I don't.
because of what you just said, most sites have discredited this as false
Right. And
information.
I'm telling anybody right now, I'll give you $10,000 to prove me wrong. I have the cash. I'll show it on a live. Come
All
down
right.
here and prove me
Okay.
wrong.
All right. Look. We'll talk about that another time. I don't, like I
I
said,
got
I
you.
don't want to get banned. I don't want to
I
ruin
got
the
you.
live by
I hear
doing
you.
it.
Yeah,
All
it's
right.
the snake. I'm the snake in the room. Run. But look, listen to this. On the abortion gun law thing, if old Wolverine was president right now, and your boy Biden has been anti-abortion all his career, right? Do you know
He was
that?
anti. Shit, him and Obama were also saying marriage was between a woman and a man. Trump said he identifies as a Democrat. Man, they all changed their mind.
Yeah, it's wild, ain't it? Flip flops.
Yeah,
So look,
they all changed their
I
mind.
got old Wolverine. If I was president, this is what I'd do right now to fix all this shit. You ready?
Oh, here we go. All right, let me hear it.
Okay. You can abort all you want. Don't and we'll give you that. You can go kill your own. Okay, it'll be less left voters anyway. Go do what you got to do. You'll be judged at the end, and I'll tell you. And then we'll give you that, and then you never ever talk or touch a Second Amendment law ever. And then that's it. Tit for tat.
Okay. All right, that's interesting. Okay. Well, shit, I can't speak on it because I'm beyond the age of abortion where it's even going to matter for me.
Well,
So,
with me, I'm a Christian. I don't believe in killing. you know, you can do whatever you want, blah blah blah. But you know, when it comes to the USA, you're right. The church is out of the you know the laws. There's separation. I can't, as much as I want to say don't kill and you know want to get in the business of the anti-abortion. Our country's set up to where that's separated. So I can't say that. I can't say that. As an
Do
American,
you
as
do
much
you buy into, since you mentioned Second Amendment, do you buy into the argument that if you ban abortion, people are just going to find another way to do it?
well, I think what it'll do is there will be a percentage that will always get it done. It will hamper some. It will inconvenience them enough, or you know, to where you know
Would
you
that
can't say
apply to the gun law? Would that apply if you made guns illegal? Would it hamper some?
nah, guns illegal. You can just go look at any place where they made guns illegal or took taking guns away from the public. And you'll see, it was funny because they had that lady from the UK trying to talk to Margie Taylor Greene the other day about gun violence. And she was like, well, do you have mass stabbings? They also have mass shootings. Do you remember when Trump was in office and the cafe shootings? Those Muslims went down the damn road and blasted about 30 people with assault weapons in the UK. So, and you know, they also like to run people over with cars over there. I was in France just a week after I left France, the same bridge that I walked across, a dude plowed a truck and killed like 15 people. So, you know, that's all a bunch of hish hosh.
Well,
People are,
I will say this though. In America, when you look at the number of people who are deliberately shot with firearms, and you look at any country on earth that does not have guns, and compare that to the number of people in any country that is deliberately ran over with cars, and it pales in comparison. It's not even at the
well,
same
you know,
universe.
you can also look at all the countries that make all their citizens carry guns and have guns in every household. And then you can look at the countries where they took all the guns away and what happened. You know, if you want to look at history, look at Pol Pot, look at Stalin, look at all these people that Hitler, look at all the people that took guns away. Do you guys not see any danger in not being able, do you not see the beauty of American guns?
Here's
It's
what
a
I don't.
beautiful thing.
Here's what I don't get. When it comes to taking guns away, we often hear about what you said, Stalin or Hitler or Saddam Hussein. Why do when it comes to bringing up tyranny, do folks never mention the United States? We've had more tyranny in this country for a significant period of time than most of the places you're naming. Why they don't bring tyranny up here? I never can understand
Man,
that.
have you ever been, I mean, do you guys ever travel? Do you
No,
travel outside the
no. I mean, I'm
USA?
asking you that. I'm asking you that question. Why do they never bring up tyranny that took place in this country?
Well, I mean, you know, that's a reflective. That's you know, I've heard you reflect off that before. But let me just ask you this: do you travel the world? Have you traveled the world?
I've been to a few other countries. I lived in Australia for a number of years.
Yeah. Have you ever been to Brazil?
No.
Yeah. Okay. Well, you go ahead and take the guns away, and you can look at places like Brazil and blah blah blah. They're backing up just as quick as they can with guns, man, because people have been getting run over by their government and criminals. So now Bolsonaro's in there and he's reversing everything, and they're making them more sovereign. Wonder why? Why do you think this is the best place in the world to come to? Why do you think Conor McGregor, who lives in Ireland, would rather live here? Why do you think Anderson Silva, who's from Brazil, Curitiba, why do they all move here? Why does everybody want to be here? Why do you go anywhere in the world and they want to come to this
Tyrannical.
tyrannical, diabolical nation? You know, my wife's
That's
from
not.
Brazil.
I'll answer that question. When you look at all of the nations that want to come here, when you look at all of the nations, and there's a lot of nations that want to come to America. When you look at those nations, it's generally developing countries and third world countries. There's not a lot of French or Germans or
Excuse
Spaniards
me.
in Spain. Hold on, let me finish. When
I'm
you
German,
think,
bro.
hold on, hear me out though. When you look at America, There are a lot of neighborhoods. There are plenty of neighborhoods that are filled with Vietnamese people or Koreans, or neighborhoods that are filled with Mexicans. There's not a lot of French neighborhoods in this country. There's not a lot of Norwegian neighborhoods. They're fine where they are. They don't want to come here. Australians are
I see a lot of
no.
Italians. I see a lot of Irish. I see a lot of Scottish. My family moved here because they were getting loaded in gas chambers where we're from. You know what I'm saying? So, you can say that only third world nations want to come here, but when you look at look at how Conor McGregor is from Ireland. He got all the money in the world.
A
He
ton
can
of
live
money.
right there.
Conor McGregor makes a ton of money fighting in the U.S. fighting circuit that he wouldn't make it. I'm talking
But why
about
wouldn't he live there?
typical Irish citizens in 2022 are not eager to get to America. They're just not.
If he was, if it was such a, if the USA was such a terrible place, why would he be here? If Ireland's so good, as good as it is, why would he has the money to live where he wants? You just, where else in the world does people want to move? Where do
I
people?
can
Where are
answer
people
that.
walking
I
for
can answer that
caravans?
question.
Why are
Okay,
people walking in caravans to here?
Okay, I'm gonna have to move it on, but I'll answer your question and give you the last word. You said if he could make money and live anywhere, why would he want to be here? The same reason why a lot of folks will leave college, and because they cannot make it to the NBA, they'll go play ball in Mexico or some third world country. They don't want to live there. They're going there because they can make more money there. Conor McGregor can make more money in the United States than he can make in Europe. I'll give you the last word though.
$10,000 magnet sticks to injection sites of Moderna. Couldn't
Oh
get to him.
no. I gotta
Bye.
go. I gotta go. Talk to you later. Keep talking about the magnets, man. He trying to get me banned. He trying to get me banned. All right, let me see. Stitch of Truth. I don't. You guys said I skipped over him. My lineup did not have him first. Stitch, can you hear me?
Hey, yeah, man. What's going on, man?
No. I certainly did not try to put
Oh, no,
somebody over
no.
you. In my lineup, they had you behind him. So sorry about that. But what's up?
Yeah, I'm mentally exhausted from your last guest, by the way. So just bear
Talk
with
to
me.
me. Talk to me.
So, okay, the Roe v. Wade thing, and I want to bring up 2 points. Number one, I don't understand, and this is why I will say this is a distraction, because no one really won with this overturning the Roe v. Wade thing, and I've been asking conservatives this all the time. What is your end goal? Like, what do you want to see happen? Because any law that's passed, you want to see a result. That's what you're aiming for, right? And so I
I'll
think a
tell you
lot
what
of
the end goal is. They want abortion to be banned
right,
nationwide. You want to protect the unborn.
right, which is my point, which is my main point, because the overall abolishment of abortion is not going to happen. And I bring up
Yes.
numbers. We bring up the numbers of 2017 because that's the latest total overall numbers that we have. And granted, in 2017 we had 850,000 abortions. Now, if you were to take the bottom 20 states as far as abortion rates, and let's just say in those states, you banned all the abortion in 20 of those states, you will possibly get a 15% reduction. And that's possible. That is best case. You would get a 15% reduction in abortions. Now, take in mind, out of those 20 states that I just mentioned, some of those are Democrat. I mean, true blue states like Hawaii that have never changed their abortion laws. Then, on top of that, people will travel to those other states, the border states, to have
Well,
abortions done. And
well,
so
let's
it's like,
go with your I don't know what the numbers are, but let's say your number is correct. A 15% reduction. How would you feel about somebody saying, "Well, 15% of lives saved is better than none"?
to me, I think that's stupid. And maybe because I deal with data and numbers all day, but that's not a significant change. If you're thinking somehow this is going to be a change in culture, and this is the thing that I don't understand. We got people that live in true blue states celebrating this. And I'm like, well, wait a minute, what are you celebrating? If you're a conservative and you're about states' rights, then what the heck are you cheering about? These
Yeah.
changes are not affecting your state at the end of the day. And let's face it, there's certain true blue states that have never changed those laws. The demographic simply does not support it. So
I don't
that's
I don't agree with that. The example I gave is all you need is a mom in a anti-abortion state to be charged with murder for trying to take her child's life, and her fighting it back under the guise that I did not kill this, I did not commit murder. It was a clump of cells. And once that goes to the courts and the Supreme Court is forced to rule on whether
right.
killing an embryo is murder or not, if the Supreme Court
That's
rules that, yeah, now it becomes a law of the
That's my
land.
point. That's exactly my point. The only way to abolish abortion totally off the map within this country, it would have to come from the federal level. That's
Yeah.
it. That's it. That's the only way. So the other thing that I wanted to talk about, I saw you in the live with Snacks and those guys earlier about the whole, white supremacy and all this stuff. And I'm, the thing is this. Number one, when people start talking about Margaret Sanger, and I'm not praising her, not one bit. I'm not. But the main thing is this. These are the facts. During the 1920s and 1930s, first of all, abortion was not legal during that time. What
No.
they were pressing was contraceptives. And so within the black community, even blacks were skeptics about contraceptives during that time. So they thought that, hey, well, look, you're coming after black people. There is no big boogeyman that Margaret Sanger all of a sudden just wanted to abolish black people. Even whenever you look at abortion now, the reason why, and here's the other thing too. First of all, Planned Parenthood is not the only people that perform abortions. There are many other
True.
clinics that perform abortions. The thing is this. This is not about race. It is about economics. The reason why blacks lead in abortions is because of the fact that it is due to economics. But guess who's second on the list? White women. White women are second on the list as far as abortions. So
So
if
let
it's
me
in
ask you this.
the yeah.
Let me ask you this. What do you? I had a show a couple of weeks ago about the Great Replacement Theory, and I talked about this earlier in this broadcast. What do you think about the notion that some folks, white folks, believe that their numbers are going down? They're not going to be a majority, but a minority soon, and they want to ban abortion to force their women to bring the numbers up because
Well,
whites tend to have less children than minorities do. So if you ban abortion, and like you said, they're second on the list, that's going to bring up their numbers, their total numbers. What do you think there may be any validity to that?
it very well could be, but here's the thing. This is what I would say the reason why the elites want to do away with abortion because you need more workers. You need more. And this is the thing. Right now, this is one of the things that I would say that a lot of people have not thought about. The millennial generation, they're different. But let me tell you something. I know a lot of people get on the millennials, but let me tell you where the millennials are smart. Millennials understand ROI, return on investment. Millennials not going to spend a lot of time unless they feel they're getting back their true investment. And I wish that's something Generation Xers and the baby boomers would have learned. A lot of people think that the millennials are lazy. I think that they look at it as an ROI standpoint. So whenever you're looking at abortion and that sort of thing, the reason why they want to push more people, and look at it, it's all connected. Look at the food prices that are going up. Look at the fact that homes, apartments, rent are all going up. Why? Simply because of the fact that these things are going up now. Because when people want a place to live, guess what? I need a job. I'm going to have to work for somebody in order to support my way of living. The best way to do that is if you have a public that is high in numbers and low on, let's just say, resources or jobs to work, and you have more people to do that because the baby boomers right now are retiring. The baby boomers right now, we're going through right now what's considered to be the great resignation, which means that either a lot of people are going into the business for themselves or leaving work. And they'll be like, hey, look, I don't want to deal with this bull crap if I'm not going to make it a good wage. So at the end of the day, it is not becoming dependent upon government. It is saying, hey, well, look, I got to be dependent upon the elitists to give me a job. This is where this is going.
So everybody tends to believe, whether you're on the right side or the left side of the aisle, everybody does seem to believe that there is some kind of population agenda behind this. Just for whatever reason, the right tends to believe there's a population agenda for one reason, and the left apparently thinks there's a population agenda behind it from a different reason.
Yeah, I think that, if you look at, and that's the reason why I keep asking everyone, what do you think this is about? And I can't, look, I'm not about all the conspiracy theories and everything else, but here's the other thing too. Abortion right now is targeting the biggest voting demographic we have in America, which is women. So now what is going to happen is this. You're going to have state versus state. And now, if you want to go further down the rabbit hole, look at what the Texas GOP platform is currently proposing right now, which is crazy. They're talking about, hey, well, look, we're talking about secession. Number one, it's one of those things that secession they're
Yeah.
talking about. The other thing they're talking about is the fact that overturning the Voting Rights Act. So now you're going to have state versus state. Now let's say worst case scenario that a state decides, like Texas, that they want to secede. They won't be the only ones. A lot of
No,
people
they
will
won't.
then try to
Yeah.
follow suit. Now you're going to have
Yeah.
state versus state. And then let's set it up so that, hey, well, in my state, for those people, like-minded people that want to prosper and we have our numbers up, they will be able to do so. You think black people in Texas are going to stay in Texas if they secede from the union? Hell no. I live in Texas. I'll
And
be
let
the
me
first
let
one
me say
smoking out of
this.
here.
Okay, fair enough. And let me say this in regards to seceding from Texas and things like that. And I hear a lot of folks, particularly on the right, that hey, Texas is ran properly and they want to get away from the woke generation and crazy liberals. They should. At the end of the day, we are 50 states operating as one unit. If you start breaking this up, it weakens the whole unit. I don't care how much you favor Texas or love Florida or think California is ridiculous. When you start breaking up the country, you make the country weaker as a whole. There is no denying that. So I don't get why any patriotic American would be in favor of any state seceding from the union, because it's going to make the state of Texas weaker, because it's losing potentially 49 allies, and it's going to make the 49 allies weaker because they're losing a very big ally. Why do I never could understand why folks are in favor of that. But I've got to move it on. But I'll give you the last word, man.
Here's the thing right now is this. I think that, number one, with this Roe v. Wade thing, it's a distraction away from the bigger picture, which is what I said all along. If you look at it and, whether you're pro-choice or pro-life, the whole thing that races behind this whole thing is simply not true. Now, abortion is a symptom of the greatest sickness. The sickness is economic disparity. And that's the main thing. It's so easy to get caught up in saying, hey, well, look, this is about black people and everything else, when whites are having a few percentage points lower, but second leading in abortions too as well. And so, that's the main thing. We need to get out of this whole thing of, and this is what frustrates me about some conservatives. There's certain things that, hey, well, it's never about race until it's convenient talking point. Then it's about race. And, to me, you get dizzy talking about it, but anyway, have a good one, man. Thank you for letting me come in.
Absolutely. Oh, anytime. You're always welcome. And I agree with his point. It's never about race until a racial conversation is convenient. Because yeah, I'm hearing all sorts of people bringing up that abortion was a way to get rid of blacks, and whether that's true or not, it's a racial discussion. Going into the box, this is going to be Pitbull. I said, appreciate you guys who have been holding on. I'm gonna wrap it up soon, but I'm certainly going to get to you and my other caller in the box. I don't want to leave anybody hanging. But Pitbull.
Hey, what's going on, man?
Nothing at all, man. Appreciate you waiting. Have you seen anything in regards to Jane's Revenge? Is all about women protesting pretty damn hard in some places around the country. Have you seen any real aggressive protests in your area?
No, not really. I mean,
Okay.
but I mean, don't get me wrong. I mean, I have seen a lot of videos on TikTok, seen a lot of stuff on the news about all this violent protesting. And I mean, they don't do nothing about that. they don't do nothing about it. People hitting cars, people burning buildings
Yeah.
down, pro-life clinics being burned down because of this. I mean, it's crazy.
What is a pro-life clinic?
I mean, I know they had some in Florida that, try to help out the people and everything, through pregnancy and all, and they were burned down.
Oh, I've never heard. Well, I
Is
wonder
there any
what
way
is
that,
it?
hey, is there any way that you can get AJ in the box with me?
He's not even requested on here.
AJ, send your request.
And by the way, I got somebody else. I mean, I put you guys on for a minute because I got somebody else that's waiting, so he
Yeah,
would actually be
I,
going in front of them. But
the only reason why is because, I mean, Stitch was talking about being, you being in AJ's live and everything. I mean,
yeah,
I like AJ. AJ's good people.
I'm fine with going in other folks' lives and debating with them. I just don't like
No,
the
you good. You
name
good.
call. Yeah,
AJ is a very civil type of person. I mean, we
yeah,
both do that.
it's the name calling and all of that stuff that the personal attacks that have nothing to do with the topic. Now, I don't have any issue with AJ,
Well,
but
see,
I will
and
say this.
I kind of agree with Stitch. What I mean, it's all a distraction because now, people are going to go to the polls. They're not thinking about inflation no more. They're not thinking about gas prices no more. They're only thinking about abortions. That's it.
Right. Let
And
me say this. Hang on a second. In regards to the comments, people were pointing out that Snacks was the one that was acting all boisterous and things like that, and that's fine. But the reason I mentioned is because if AJ is hosting the debate, he should be responsible for stopping that. If you got one, and that's why I don't like to put more than one guest on at a time, is because
oh,
you'll never see that in my lives where one guest is literally just insulting the hell out of and belittling another guest because we only go one on one. And when
well,
you
hold
put
on.
multiple people on with opposing opinions, you're going to inevitably get a guy like Snacks. That's just going to happen. Go ahead, Pitbull.
Well, I'll say something about Snacks. Snacks is very passionate about what he believes in. It's not that he's trying to come off wrong. He's
How
very
could you?
passionate
Okay,
about
wait,
what
wait a
he
minute,
believes.
wait a minute. When you start calling people, what was he calling me? Fuckface or something? When you start calling people personal insults, that's not passion. He was criticizing the shirt I had on. That's not passion. That's just
I wasn't
insulting.
there, so I mean, I don't know, but
Okay,
I just
all right.
know the way I know Snacks. I watch a lot of his lives. I mean, he's very passionate about what he believes in, and and I'm all for that. I mean,
Well,
just
I
trying to
would
get that.
invite you. I on my profile, my top left hand corner picture, on all my videos, the top left first video on the page, it features him talking to me and launching all kinds of personal attacks. I would invite you to listen to that and tell me that's passion. It's just all insults. It's criticizing your looks, your facial features. It has nothing to do with passion. It's just him going off the rails.
I've seen Snacks go off. I mean, I understand, but
Yeah.
I mean, it's you know, I I love Snacks. I mean, he's a great guy. I think
Okay.
personally.
And there's nothing wrong with you liking the guy. I just,
That's my
just
opinion.
yeah, there's nothing wrong with you liking the guy. I'm a liberal. But I'm not going to defend liberals when I think they're doing something that's ridiculous. And that's all I'm saying is you can
No,
like the man,
I
but be willing to
get
call him out when he's doing something that is. You would certainly probably call that out if it was coming from somebody you did not like.
yeah, I get you. I get you. I get your
Yeah.
point on that.
Okay. And that's
But
all. I did not. I don't see him in the box. By the way,
yeah,
your
I
guy.
don't even know if he's still in here. But
Yeah.
I would really. I mean, like I said, I like AJ too. But it's all deflection. I mean, like I said, nobody cares about the gas prices now. Nobody cares about inflation. I mean, if you notice right now, Biden said that he's gonna lower gas prices for the fourth and all that. Okay, have you noticed in the last week they've gone up?
Yeah.
So
And see that's
even
and that's
if he
that's
even if he
exactly what I'm
does lower
saying.
it back down, he's just gonna lower it down to basically what we were paying a week ago.
Yeah.
So
Well,
I
I will
mean,
say this, and this is what I was talking about being able to point out things that are wrong, even if it's on your side. I've made it clear I believe Biden is doing horrible on the economy. Now, in regards to deflecting things, is the Roe versus Wade argument a deflection? Maybe. But I will say this, that the Supreme Court did not have to give us this to deflect. I mean, this is a huge issue. Even though gas
No, it's
prices are astronomically high, you can't expect them to roll back 50 years worth of legislation and not get a major, major amount of attention. So the
I mean,
Supreme Court
I
did
think
not
it's
have
going
to
to hurt.
do this.
Do I think it's going to hurt the Republican Party? Absolutely.
Yeah.
But, at the same time, now people are voting. Okay, how many people go out, an average woman goes out, how many abortions do they get in a freaking year? I mean, come on, let's be honest here. I mean, they're fighting for their rights to have an abortion. But at the same time, do they ever use that right? I mean,
So
it's all deflection.
well, let me say it this way. In regards to saying, well, you don't really get an abortion, so why are you crying over this? It's a deflection. I could throw the same argument back at you with right wingers that fought hard for decades to prevent same-sex marriage. If you're not marrying a man, why do you care so much about this? And they fought for generations, really tough. Just
I
like with
understand. I understand that too. And I mean, and I'm all that type of person. If you're gay, you want to marry another dude, hey, all for it, go for it. I do not care. That does not affect me one freaking bit. But I am for, I am pro-life. I mean, I'm for, you. Like I always teach my kids. Let me leave it at this. Like I teach my kids every single day. Life is about consequences, good or bad. I mean, if you get straight A's, I'm going to reward you. That's a consequence. You get straight F's, I'm going to punish you. That's a consequence. Everything in life has consequences. When you lay down, you take that risk of
But
getting
who
pregnant.
gets to who? But if you lay down, I get what you said. If you're irresponsible when you lay down, there's consequences. But shouldn't those consequences for those who are religious? Shouldn't those consequences be decided by God, not Clarence Thomas?
It should be decided by God, but I mean, okay, now okay, let's go with that. Okay, it's decided by God, but at the same time, is God the one taking that baby?
No, man. If
Okay,
man is doing
exactly,
that, but what I'm trying to
exactly.
okay, what I'm trying to get across to you is that women who want to exercise pro-choice, whether you ban a doctor from being able to do it or not, they're going to find a way to do it. And man is going to try to then come and criminalize it
They
and
take that
punish him for
risk.
it.
They
Huh?
take that risk. I mean, that's on them.
So
I mean,
so
I ain't
you're
trying to be
agreeing
mean
that
about the situation. I'm not trying to be mean about the situation, but I mean, if they go take a coat hanger, they're taking that risk.
they're taking a risk that man is going to make them pay consequences.
No, they got to accept their own responsibility. I mean, a
No,
man didn't make them lay down and open those legs.
But
They did it on
but
their
that's
own.
what I'm telling you. What I'm telling you is that there is medical technology now where they don't have to accept their responsibility. You as a man is making them do that because you think they should. They don't have to do that. You're forcing them to do it.
But you should have to accept responsibility for your actions.
But
I
that's
mean, that's
your
just like,
opinion. You're forcing your opinion on them.
okay, a guy goes out and kills somebody. Does he need to accept responsibility for his actions?
Yeah.
A man's the one that pushing the punishment on him.
Say that, I didn't
Am I
hear
right
you.
or am I wrong?
I didn't hear what you said.
I said, okay, if a guy goes out and kills somebody,
Right.
okay, does he need to accept responsibility for his action?
Yeah.
Okay, but a guy's the one a man is the one that's pushing the responsibility on him. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm just saying,
But you got to
life is about
understand.
responsibility and about
But
consequence.
you gotta understand the pro-choice crowd do not see an abortion, particularly in the first trimester, as killing. They don't view it the same way you do.
Well, see, I'll tell you another thing, and you'll be surprised. Now, some states that have banned it, I think that's pretty crazy. But at the same time, you're going to see a lot of states that's not. And I mean, for the main fact, they don't want all the Democrats in the office, and they know if they do put a ban on it, it's going to hurt them in the long run. It's going to hurt the state in the long run.
I read a quote from Vice President Pence, and they do want a ban on it. They want a national ban on it.
I mean,
his quote, he made it clear that they're not going to rest until they get abortion banned in all 50 states. I mean, his quote is about as clear as day.
That'll never happen. That'll never happen.
We would have thought rolling back Roe versus Wade would have never happened too.
You know, but you know, and I've gotten a lot of arguments over in other lives where they're talking about, well, they're taking away our abortions, let's take away your guns. Okay, guns are, you know, they are covered under the Constitution.
I'm not here to, I don't disagree with you on that, but I'm just simply saying, if you had stepped up 2 or 3 years ago and said the right wing is going to ultimately roll back Roe versus Wade, everybody would have accused you of fear mongering and saying that'll never happen. And we've seen evidence now that can happen. So anything else that people dismiss as sounding outlandish or crazy, to me, I'm willing to listen to and entertain anything at this point. With a 6-3 majority on the Supreme Court, if you had a 6-3 liberal majority on the Supreme Court, you could easily see a 6'6" woman like myself, a guy like myself, 6'6", 300 pounds, identifying as a woman and playing in the Pee Wee leagues. You would easily see crazy stuff like that happening from the right side of the aisle with a 6'3" majority.
I'm watching this live right now, and I do not want to picture that. Just saying. I mean, you can do whatever you want. You can do whatever you want. But right. I don't want to see that.
Okay. And hopefully it won't happen. But I'm just saying, with a 6-3, if you had a 6-3 liberal majority, you would expect Bernie Sanders and AOC to be the law of the land.
I mean, this is how I feel about that situation. I mean, if you want to go out and be a trans, I'm all for it, but don't push it on my kids. Do not push it on me and my family. You know, me having my neighbors, for example, they're great people, and there's one that is trying to transition over from a woman to a male. I respect her, but she's one of those type. You still call her a her. I mean, because that's what she was born with. She uses her natural name. You know, a lot of people in the trans community is not even for what these people are even pushing for.
But I got to move it on, but I will let you answer this. You said a lot of these people in this community are not what they're for, and I'm okay with it, but don't push it on my family. Couldn't a liberal say, I'm okay with your Christian beliefs, but don't push that on my family? Or, you know, the same thing you're saying is that a lot of people are not even for this. How many evangelicals and Christians, particularly like Trump, has had multiple wives, cheating? They're not what they're for either. They're not for what they're pushing either.
You're absolutely right. I mean, but at the same time, I'm not bringing religion because nobody, and you know this just as much as I do, nobody wants religion brought into freaking politics. If you do, it will be bad.
Shit, I think a whole lot of right wingers want religion brought into politics. I think a whole lot of them.
You start taxing the church. I mean, yeah, they do because heck, the Republicans would win every freaking time. I mean, but I'm just saying, you don't want that.
Fair enough. All right, man. I got to move it on. Definitely got to do that. Appreciate you coming through. You too. Absolutely. All right. Catch you later. All right, I think Tim Proctor was next in here, so I'm going to bring In God We Trust, so vote blue. That may happen in some states, but not all. Tim Proctor, good afternoon. Good evening.
What's going on, brother? I hope that you're having a blessed day today because I know that I am. But anyway, just like the last caller said, we don't want to bring religion into it, you know, but the House of Representatives opens up every day with a prayer. Okay, but you can't pray in school. Point. But you can't pray in school. And so does the Senate. The Senate opens up every day with a prayer, but you can't pray in school. You know, It's mind-boggling to me, the hypocrisy that tends to be running rapid. Either we're
Well,
going to be
you can pray in school. They just don't interrupt the day of school for prayer. You can pray in school anytime you want.
well, if like when I was in school, I'm 65 years old. You're probably as old as I am, right?
You think I look 65?
I just
Damn. Let's get something. I might as well go talk to Snacks.
Ah,
Damn.
no, no, I had to throw that out there at you.
Oh my God.
one thing about being a liberal and about
Okay.
being a liberal such as yourself. Liberal means freedom. You believe in the Constitution. You believe in your freedom of speech. You believe in your freedom of religion. You believe in your Second Amendment rights. You believe that's what liberalism is all about. The Democratic Party is not liberal anymore. They don't believe in those things. They've gone away from that. And that's what's happened to our country right now. Now, this whole thing with Roe v. Wade. Okay, even Ruth Bader Ginsburg sit there and said it had to be overturned. It had to be overturned. She said that. And people have to
I'm
understand that.
angry. I liked her more in life. I'm pissed off at Ruth because her ass should have retired. She knew she was dying. She should have retired and not let what happened happen. She responsible for some of this.
I agree. But at the same time, we have to get past this stuff, and we can't be mad and angry and yelling and screaming. What do we get done if we're yelling and screaming at each other all the time? If you're out there busting out windows or you're protesting the street, what are we accomplishing as a nation?
Yeah.
We're not getting anything done.
I don't disagree with that. I get it.
Or if a man looks at you and says, "Well, that's a good looking black guy right there." Well, he's not black. He's a man. He's a man. Just call him a man. That's who he is. We are all created equal. That's what our that's what our Constitution, our Declaration. We are all created equal.
Yeah. No, and real quick. Hold on a second. Real quick in the comments, Don, you said that Ruth Bader Ginsburg did not want to retire because she didn't want Trump to appoint her replacement. No, she should have retired during Obama's term. She was battling cancer on multiple occasions while Obama was in office. I believe somebody from the Obama administration apparently even tried to get her to retirement. Her days were numbered. She just predicted that Hillary Clinton would win and Hillary Clinton would do it. But once Trump won, there wasn't enough left in her to survive Trump's term. So, yeah, she should have retired. That's all I'm saying. But go ahead there, Tim.
Right. And I agree with you. I agree with that. She should have retired. Well, she was sick and she should have gone ahead and retired. And, you were talking about earlier about a 6-3 majority on the Supreme Court right now, conservative. Well, there's been a 6-3 majority liberal on the Supreme Court, and it was like that for years. Yeah. And then you went Roe versus Wade. When that passed, I was in high school when that passed in 1973. Okay, when the Supreme Court said, okay, so you can go ahead and you can have an abortion. Okay, when the Supreme Court said that, but it wasn't made into law. Okay,
it wasn't
because the Supreme Court doesn't make law. But when the Democrats had control of the House, the Senate, and the presidency numerous times, what did they do about it? Nothing.
The thing, and I agree with your point, and Ruth Bader Ginsburg even said what you're saying is that when they were in control, they should have changed the laws. But most of us thought exactly like those 3 Supreme Court justices that Trump stated, is that, look, that has already been done. We're not going to go back and look at that. We just trusted the Supreme Court when they ruled in regards to Roe versus Wade, they would leave that alone. But then those, who was it, Kavanaugh? I can't think of the female's name. The 3 justices that he appointed, they essentially, I will say, at best, were deceptive. At worst, outright lied that they were not going to touch Roe versus Wade. They gave us reason to continue not to make it in the law. They led us to believe, look, it's already been adjudicated. We've already went down that alley. We're not going to touch it again. And the minute they got elected, boom, that's exactly what they did.
Well, it was taken up because the states had bought suit about it.
Yeah, but they could have did it. Yeah, but they could have did the same thing when Trump tried to get them to look at the election results. It's already been done. We're not going to look at it. They didn't have to take it up. They took it up because they wanted to. They wanted to re-look at that. And here we are.
And so now that it's done, and we know that even when you, just like we said, reiterating what you just said, Ruth Bader Ginsburg said it needed to be overturned. Even you've had Joe Biden said it has to be, abortion should be limited. You've heard him say this. You've heard numerous people talk about this. We need to get past this, and we need to move on. We have bigger fish to fry. And just like when you're talking about the economy, it's always about the economy, and we haven't seen anything yet. I'm afraid that gas prices, you're going to see oil shoot back up to 120, maybe $130 a barrel. You're going to see, and commodity prices are going to shoot way up with as far as your grains, especially with your grains, especially when we start getting what's happening with the yields on this thing and what farmers, because of the fertilizer pricing and everything. And so I think this is going to be a big deal for us. And you already see what's happening in the transportation industry with the transportation costs, and that's what's driving your food prices up is the high price of fuel, and that gets passed on to you and I. Every bit of it.
Well, I think right now with what's going on with the Second Amendment decision they handed down and then Roe v. Wade, they've actually found a way to find something that actually is bigger than the economy. Certainly with liberals, that Roe versus Wade thing is probably as big as taking away gun rights from Second Amendment folks. That's huge. So yeah, I strongly believe from the right side of the aisle, it would have been better if they had waited till after the midterms to do that. That's going to hurt. I don't know what's going to happen in the midterms. I do expect a red wave to some degree, but that wave is going to be weaker now because of doing that.
Well, and I don't think so. I think if this inflation continues to go up, right now it's a deflection. It is absolutely a deflection, and it takes some of the heat off Biden because we're looking over here instead of looking at what we should be looking at. You know what I'm talking about? Our problem is inflation right now. High fuel price, taking money out of your pocket. You're getting taxed every month. You're paying more, and that's just like adding a tax onto you.
Right.
Well, anyway,
and I don't disagree with what you're saying. I'm just simply saying when you're talking about potentially putting people in jail for murder for pro-choice rights, paying $5 a gallon for gas is going to take a back seat to that. There are some women that are going to become straight up felons behind this legislation, and high inflation is not going to be as high up in priority for them as the potential of becoming a felon or having to travel hundreds of miles to get the procedure and all of the tentacles that's going to go along with that. I mean, certainly in like Oklahoma, where even if you're raped, you got to have this kid. You best believe the liberals are going to find women that have been abused and wanted to terminate the pregnancy and could not, and drag them all over the country having rallies. No different than when an MS-13 member would sneak across the border, kill some Americans, and Trump would use that because his agenda was securing the border. So he would put them on stage, put the family of the deceased all on stage all over the country. Their family was killed by illegal immigrants. That's going to happen, and there's going to be a whole lot of those people that the Democrats are going to use. This is definitely political capital for the Democrats.
Right, and they're going to take advantage of it. Of course they are. Both parties take advantage of situations like that. They both do it. You know that. And they play good cop, bad cop. They play this game. It's a shell game. And they want to use us like the pawns on the chessboard and say, oh, look. And that's exactly what they do. And especially with young people not knowing the rights. My daughter, I have 4 daughters, okay? And one of my youngest daughters today sent me a message. She was so upset. She goes, oh, well, look at this, Dad. Look what's happened now. They're taking all of our rights away. And I said, listen, abortion is not illegal. I said, you can I said, if somebody still needed a procedure that they could still get this procedure done. Now they're probably going to put limits on certain procedures. I'm sure that's what's going to happen. I'm looking, just being realistic about it.
Yeah,
You know,
maybe. I don't, it's hard to say, but like I said, I strongly believe that they're on a path towards a national abortion ban. And I'll give you guys that quote where President Biden said that we are not going to rest until this is the law of the land in every state. That's something that not Biden, but Vice President Pence said that yesterday, that we are not going to rest until the sanctity of life is protected as the law of the land in every state. So we can
right.
talk about what they're doing now, but clearly the goal is a full and complete ban of abortion in all 50 states.
Okay, I want to ask you one question.
Sure.
Have we aborted so many children in this country that's why we're letting so many illegals into this country, because we don't have the people
No,
to fill the positions? Do you
no,
think that's what I mean? You look,
no,
I'm a baby
I don't
boom.
think, no, I don't think that's what it is. I think the reason we're letting illegals in the country is because of two reasons. From the liberal side of the aisle, we want illegals to come in the country because they turn into votes. We let them in to pursue the American dream. And when they do have children that become legalized American citizens, they reward us by voting liberal. The right wants illegal immigrants in, and taking Trump out of the picture, because I think Trump is the only politician in recent history that truly did try to secure the border. But take Trump out of the picture, and I'm talking about other right wingers like Reagan and Bush and all the rest of them. They want illegal immigrants in this country because they work with big business. Right wingers are in bed with big business. They always have. And big business wants those people in here because they turn into cheap labor. They allow them to skirt U.S. labor laws. So both sides of the aisle want illegal immigrants in here, and it has nothing to do with population.
Well, okay, all right. Well, because if you listen to you like Candace Owens? Do you ever listen to Candace Owens?
I do, but I don't like her.
Well, I like Candace, and she talks about the black population a lot, and
It is on, and
about
that's why, yeah, exactly. And that you're right. She talks, and I'll let you continue, but she talks about the black population, and I don't like her because everything she says about the black population is negative. Her entire claim to fame is pointing out the flaws of the African American community. Nothing else. I mean, there are plenty of schools that promote, or better yet, graduate hundreds of African American college graduates every
no.
single semester. You won't hear her talking about that. She'll be talking about the dropouts. Everything she talks about is negative. That's why I don't like her.
Well, she talks about the one thing that she said that really caught my attention was she was talking about how many children have been aborted within the black community and the black population in this country, where it's still the same as what it was. Lyndon Baines Johnson this guy was a real piece of work. Okay, if you know anything about Lyndon Baines Johnson, what he did, especially with welfare and by not letting fathers be in the home, and it just really decimated the community as a whole.
Oh yeah, I'm aware of that. Where they passed laws where if a woman wanted to get welfare, she couldn't have the father in the house, and folks were kicking dads out of the picture. Yeah, I've heard about that. I'm aware of what you're talking about.
Right, and I think it devastated the family as a whole, and the family unit in the United States as a whole has been decimated. I mean, I don't care who you are, if you're red, white, green, or yellow. They have decimated the family unit in this country, and that's what's happened to us as a whole, and that's sad. It's really sad that that's happened, and I'll leave it at this, and this will be my final thought right here. I just hope that we'll come together as a nation, because we can't ever do anything as long as we're divided. If we're divided as a nation, nothing ever gets accomplished, and our children will not ever be able to flourish. And they're the ones that need to flourish. It's not about me. I'm 65 years old, like I said. And I know you're not 65. I was just joking with you earlier, brother. I want you to know that.
I hear you. I hear you. Give me at least a decade. Give me at least a decade or more. I'm nowhere near 65, but it's coming. It's coming.
Even though I know I'm better looking. But anyway, just say,
Oh, 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 oh. Nothing wrong with it. You should have your video on if you're all handsome
oh
like
yeah,
that.
okay. We could have had a competition there, couldn't we?
Shit. Let me tell you something. When you gotta sit here and stare at a camera with a big ass ring light around it for 2-3 hours straight, you'll be amazed at what people say about your damn appearance. I damn near
oh,
gotta put on eyeshadow and lipstick on here for folks
oh
not to
my goodness.
comment.
Oh no! Oh no! No, no, don't start with the eyeshadow and lipstick. Now, don't go there, now, bro.
I'm telling you, I get people comment on every damn thing from my nostrils to my eyebrows. Because I mean, I'm
Next
literally
thing I
sitting
know,
here
you ain't.
staring at a camera. Yeah,
Oh,
it's a challenge. I mean, I've even had people count how many times I damn near blink, man. I mean, when you're sitting there
oh no!
staring at the camera that long, people
Oh
say
yeah.
every damn thing.
No, I can imagine. I can imagine. Well, listen. God bless you, brother. And I'll be yakking at you
Absolutely.
later. I'll be yakking at everybody later. Y'all have a blessed evening. Have a blessed weekend. God
All
bless you.
right,
Bye.
appreciate it. Always,
Bye.
always a good conversation. Folks, unfortunately, I'm gonna have to wrap it up. I gotta go answer a call of nature. We've been on here rapping pretty good. Hopefully, we don't have any significant protests in any part of the country that's going to be violent. We don't want any. We don't want the summer of 2020, and we don't want January 6th. But this is a very controversial issue. It's a very passionate issue, and women are pissed. I'm telling you, when it comes to November, these women are going to show up. Don't ever think that Stacey Abrams and some of the really good organizers that are behind the scenes are not going to be pushing to get these women out. And it's going to be a bunch of young ones, women that probably would not have voted otherwise. So I'm not going to say I'm totally in the camp that the blue wave won't happen, but I strongly believe that wave is now smaller. Depending on whatever else happens from here to November, though. If we're paying $10 a gallon, yeah, I can see it. But if he stabilizes the economy, not bringing $2 gas back, but not making it get any worse than it is now, this decision with Roe versus Wade is going to hurt. Anyway, folks, I got to catch you later. Your boy Tim, the handsome liberal. I'm out of here.